For those of you that don't know me, my name is Emily Kramer. I do all of the training here at the legislature, and I also do chamber support in the House of Representatives. I also have a colleague in the Senate that does something similar. So we're there from the time you guys gavel in until the time you guys gavel out. This year with COVID, we're usually stationed in the back of the chamber. However, this year with social distancing and then wanting to limit the amount of people in chamber, we're going to be located in the copy center in the rotunda in between the two chambers on the second floor. So again, we'll be there from the time you gavel in to the time you gavel out, so someone will always be available to answer any questions that you have, and if you need help, don't hesitate to come find us. I have emailed all of you at the email addresses you gave when you signed up for class, the handouts that I usually distribute for the class, and I'll show you a little bit later where you can find them all anytime you need to. But today we're going to go through file management. We're going to talk a little bit about the drives that you have access to, saving, moving files, and then we're going to talk about how you can access your information from outside the Capitol complex, and then we're going to finish up with a brief Outlook training. Well, not brief, because we're going to be here 3 hours, but briefer, I guess, than the full Outlook training. So if you guys have questions, as I mentioned, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask as we're going through stuff. We want to get your questions answered. And then you also have the opportunity to just write in the chat window if you prefer to just type it. It should pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer those as well. And for people that are here, I'm going to go ahead and repeat their questions so you guys can hear them on the video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is all of the different drives that you have access to. So this is for your legislative laptop only, but obviously if you are signing in remotely to work for a legislator from home, you will need access to these drives as well. I know we have some legislators here, I have some clerks, so I'm just going to kind of say if you're a clerk or a legislator for this. So basically, the clerks don't have their own email account and they don't have their own drives. What they do is they share the drives with the legislator. So you and your clerk or you and your legislator will be sharing the same drive, you'll be sharing the same email account. So that being said, you're both working in there at the same time. If things start happening, it's usually because one of you is doing it. So the first thing you'll notice if you're on our legislative laptop or if you're working from home, which we'll talk about here in a bit, there's a folder icon down here in the taskbar, and that's your File Explorer. This is going to open up all of the drives that you have access to. Now, mine looks a little bit different than yours will. I have some additional drives here because I do other trainings for different departments. However, we're all going to have some of the same drives. The first one and the most important drive I want to talk about is your H drive. This is your network drive. This is your personal drive. No one can access this drive except for you and your legislator, whoever has the same username and sign-on. When you sign in, it will know that you are routed to this H drive. A couple reasons to save to the H drive. One, as I mentioned, it's secure. You can't get to it unless you sign in with your legislator's username and password. Two, you can access it from any computer with an internet connection using our Citrix application or our VPN from home option. And three, and most importantly, it is backed up. So if anything were to be deleted from here, we can always recover it. There is a backup that runs every night on all of the H drives. So if you lose something, we can generally recover it for you. That being said, if you just created it today and you deleted it, the backup hasn't had a chance to run yet. So some things we can't recover. Generally, that hasn't been an issue, but I just throw that out there so you know. So that's another reason to save to the H drive is that everything is backed up. If something were to happen to your computer, it falls out a window, what have you, we can recover these files. So if you're clerking for a new legislator this year, this drive will be empty because they haven't saved anything yet. This is, again, completely up to you and your legislator how you want to organize this drive and how you want it to work. I'll come back and talk a little bit about folder structure here in a second after we talk about all the different drives here. So that's the H drive. If you remember nothing else from this class except that you should save to your H drive, I will be fine with that. We don't want a lot of stuff on our C or local drive because one, that is specific to the one computer that you're working on. So yes, even though you and your legislator are sharing an account, you have two separate laptops that you're working on. Anything saved to the C drive is going to be specific to your machine only. That is the hard drive for your physical laptop that you're working on. C drive includes anything on your desktop. It includes anything in your downloads folder, anything in your documents folder, anything in your pictures folder. These are all local to the machine that you're working on. So if you have an icon on your desktop, that's of course fine, but you won't see the same icon on your legislator's desktop unless you move it over there or create the same icon on that desktop. So that's why I advise against saving to the C drive. You're perfectly fine to do it. There's not anything wrong with it. It's just that you can't share the C drive as you can the H drive. And of course, the C drive is not backed up. That's not something that we can back up. So if files were to be removed from the C drive or lost, we can't recover those all the time. The next drive I want to talk about is your G drive. Now mine says LSA, but all of the different caucus staff, all of the different parties and chambers have these things. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I was getting some background noise. I just wanted to mute that person. So the G drive is specific to your chamber and party. So if you sign in with a legislator that is a House Republican, you're going to see the House Republican G drive. If you sign in as a House Democrat, you'll see the House Democrat drive. If you sign in as a Senate Republican, you'll see that drive. If you sign in as a Senate Democrat, you'll see that drive. This is your caucus drive. So anything in this drive can be viewed by anyone in your chamber and party. Now again, this is an LSA drive. This isn't what you guys will see, but it's just an example. You'll have the same letter, and it'll be the G drive, and it'll be called by your chamber and party. So anything that you want to put out there for viewing of your entire chamber and party, that's totally fine. But generally what you'll be doing is accessing files from the G drive as opposed to saving files there. This is where the caucus staff puts out a lot of files that they think you'll use. There's different pictures out there of events that happen, newsletter templates. Every caucus is a little different about the data that they have saved out there. But this is where you can come to access that data. This is also a network drive, so that means, again, it's backed up, and again, it's accessible from any computer with an internet connection outside the Capitol. So that's your G drive. Yes. No, go ahead.
So the G drive is shared with your chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the H drive shared with?
Just you. That is you and your clerk. So whoever has your sign-in.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the sharing.
Exactly.
Between my clerk and then the
Exactly. The question was who has access to your H drive, and the answer is anyone that signs in with your username and ID. So generally it'll just be the clerk and the legislator that has access to the H drive. Good question. And then lastly, the one you will see here is this one called the I drive, and it's called the outbox. Why, I'm not sure, but that's what they decided to name it. This is where LSA puts out some files that we think you'll use. And again, this is a network drive. Again, it is backed up. Really, the only reason that I use the iDrive is for the graphics folder. So as you can see, when I open up my iDrive here, there's a folder in here entitled Graphics, and there's some great pictures in here that you can use for newsletters, emails, whatever you'd like. We have all the legislator photos going back to '95, so you can open those folders up and view previous session legislator pictures. And then as I continue to scroll, you'll see that there are pictures of the Capitol, there's district map pictures, pictures of buildings in the Capitol complex, monuments, etc. All of these are out here for your use. They're not copyrighted or anything like that. Feel free to use these however you see fit. But that's really the one I point out on the iDrive because that's really the only reason that I use this drive. And mostly this is for LSA, but this is something that you guys can use as well. So those are your drives. Again, the C drive is specific to the one machine that you're working on. So anything that you save to your C drive that's on your desktop is going to be specific to your laptop only. The H drive is the one that is shared between you and your legislator. So the way that works is it's really important to have communication with either your legislator or your clerk, depending on your role, just so that you're communicating and you both know where things are being saved and things like that. The way it works, the computer cannot tell who is who, so whoever saves last wins. So it's important that you guys kind of speak to each other and work out a system that works for you where you're going to be saving files. If you move something or delete something, just try to let each other know so we don't lose files and we don't have that confusion. Once again, the G drive is specific to your chamber and party. So when you sign in and you're, let's say, a Senate Democrat, you will see the Senate Democrat G drive. This is where the caucus staff puts out information for your use. Again, it depends on the caucus, what kind of information you'll see out here, but there's a lot of like newsletter templates, pictures, just information that they want their chamber and party to know. You can save to the G drive. It's not allowed. You can absolutely do that. However, like I said, you're mostly going to be accessing information from the G drive as opposed to saving information there. And then lastly, the I drive is where you can find that graphics folder. and you can use all of these high-res pictures in the graphics folder for any of your newsletters or anything else that you like. So, the H, the G, and the I are network drives, so those are all backed up. Again, the C drive is not. If you are clerking for a new legislator, you are a new legislator this year, your H drive is completely blank. Of course, that's by design. You haven't saved anything yet, so there's no information there. So, the way I usually advise people to save their information is in a folder structure like this, where you have folders representing different, bills or committees or subjects, and then you put the files that are relating to that subject in the folder for easier use. Now, again, between you and your legislator, you and your clerk, you can work out your own system. This is completely up to you how you want to organize this. This is just the way I like to do it so I can find my files more quickly. So, when you are, let's pretend you're in a Word document, and you're wanting to save this to your H drive. I'm just going to open up a new document here. What you will do is you will come up here and you will click the Save or Save As buttons, and then it's going to ask where you want to save this. And we know from our training that we're going to choose the H drive, because that is the one that is backed up and that is the one that is shared between both of you. So you'll see over here I'm able to choose my H drive. I would name the file whatever I want. And then I would make sure that, of course, the file type is correct, which it is. I would say Save. And in this case, it will always prompt you if there is a file with the same name in the same location. So in this case, it's telling me, I already have a file with this name in this location. Do I want to replace it? You do have the option to save changes with a different name. So if you want to not overwrite the file, you would just simply change the file name and complete the save. But in this case, it's a test document that I always use for training, so I'm fine with replacing it. So you would just make your choice. And then from that point on, anytime I hit save, it's going to go to that location, which is the root of my H drive. And that will work across all of the Office applications. So Excel, Outlook, you don't really need to mess with because, again, that's all backed up for you. Your email is all backed up. So you won't be saving emails usually. But attachments from emails, of course, you can save to your H drive. So this is how I've organized mine, and you can see the test document that I just saved is right here. This is what's called the root of your H drive. So what it will generally show you is an alphabetical list of all of your folders here, each of these folders containing more files. And then at the bottom, as you scroll down, these will be the singular files that you just saved to the root of your H drive. So again, this is completely up to you. So when you go to save something, you choose H. When you want to create a new folder, very simple to do. There's an icon up here in your File Explorer that says New Folder. When you click on that, it's going to open up a new folder here, and it's going to ask you to name it. That's why the name is highlighted here. So I'm just going to call this Test Train. You'll name your file, click away from it, and at that point, the file has been named. Now, it still has no content. I haven't actually added any files to this folder. I've just created the folder. You'll notice that when I navigated away and came back, that all of the folders are organized alphabetically. Again, that is the setting on your computer. If you want to override that for whatever reason, I had a couple of legislators who wanted their newsletter folder to be first, even though it started with an N. What you can do is name your name your folder something like One Newsletter. The numbers will always supersede the letters. So if you name it One Newsletter, and then I come back here and open it up, you'll see that that will appear at the top of my list. So just a little way around that alphabetizing rule. Again, I haven't put any content into my file yet. I can do so many different ways. The first way is that I can just click and drag files into that folder. So if I wanted to move this into my test train, you can see as I hold down my left mouse click and drag it up, it's going to give me a little ghosted message that's saying it's going to move this file into this subfolder. So at that point, it's going to disappear from the root of my H drive, and it's going to be moved into my folder. So pretty straightforward. You can have folders inside of folders. So maybe within this folder, I want to have another one that says, I don't know, 2021. Some of these legislators have been here for some time, so they have subfolders for each year that they've served. You can have as many folders as you like. You can go as deep as you like. Again, this is completely your choice. So there's another file folder that I could add data to if I wished. So you can click and drag. You can also copy and paste. So if I did a right-click on a file here, I could do either a cut, which will remove it from the original location and paste it into the new location, or I could copy, which will leave it in the old location and post it to a new location. Let's pretend I just want to move it. So I'm going to cut. It'll kind of ghost it here. I would open up my folder. Again, I would right-click, and I would paste, and now it's gone into the subfolder here. So you can click and drag, you can copy and paste, and then, of course, as you're in Word or Excel, you can just choose the H drive as the location to save your files. Absolutely, yep. So if you can just do the same thing in reverse. So if I wanted these out again, what I would probably do is either just grab them and drag them over to the root of my H drive, or you could copy and cut and paste as well. So now if I scroll down, they should be back. Or did I move them to the wrong spot? I might have moved them into a subfolder. Okay, so let's pretend we wanted to get that one back out. I would cut it from that location. I would go back to the root of my H drive over here. Open it up. I would just choose a blank location, paste it in, and then I've moved it back out. Good question. The other thing, just to be cautious about, if you are copying and maintaining several versions of the same file, just make sure that when you update it, you're also updating each place where you've saved it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with one on your H drive that's correct and one on your G drive that's maybe out of date. And that's not something that's usually a problem. I just say that as a cautionary thing to advise you against doing. But you can save, of course, as many different copies of files, as many different places as you like. I just say that so that if you make changes, that you make sure that you update all of the locations. Because when you save in Word or Excel, wherever the first place you've saved that is, and you hit save from that point on, that is where it's going to save. It's the last location that you saved it. So if you saved it to the H drive, and you came back and you saved it to the G drive, every time you hit save, it's going to save to that G drive location only. So what you'll want to do is make sure that you save it again to the H drive location as well. And generally, like I said, not a lot of people do that, but I just point it out just in case that's something that you want to do. So that's your H drive. And again, organize this however you want between you and your legislator. Come up with a system that works for you. So you can create as many folders as you like. You can move files around. You can click and drag. You can copy and paste. All of that is there for you. There is some additional options here that I wanted to point out. And that is the search feature up here at the top. And I'm sorry, this is kind of covering my search. So you'll notice at the top in this File Explorer, there is a search right here. Depending on what I've selected over here along the left is what it's going to search. So because I've chosen my H drive, it's going to search my H drive. Now, this is a very comprehensive search. So if you know a word from the document that you're looking for, that's a great thing to do. If you know the file extension, like that it's a Word document, if you know when you last worked on it, all of those are great search terms. This comes in handy where a lot of times somebody will say, I hit the save button and I closed out and I have no idea where I just saved this document. So what you can do is come in here and run the search. So I have a lot of documents that deal with training, as you can imagine. This works on what is called stemming. So even though I type in train, it's going to find training, trainer, trainings, anything with that root word is going to populate as a result here. So all I have to do is hit enter. It's going to go through my H drive and it's going to find every instance of that word and it's going to pull all of those up as a result here. You'll notice that it highlights every instance of that word for me in either the file name, the file location, or actually in the file itself. So even if it's not named that, you'll generally still be able to pull that up as a result. You'll notice down here in the lower left that it gives you the number of results found. So it'll tell you how many results have been found relating to that search topic that you entered. And then you can simply come in here, double click to open up any one of these files and then resave it wherever you'd like. So this is a great tool to use. There are some wildcard characters, but generally I don't really mess with those because the way it works with stemming, you really don't have to get the verb tense right or the singular or plural. Just type in the root word and it'll populate all of those results for you. When you are done running your search, you'll simply click the little close box here, and that will return you to the main H drive contents here without those search results. Now, sometimes you may not be aware, or you may not know if you saved it to your H drive. You know you saved it somewhere, but you're not quite sure where. In that case, what I would do is select the This PC option, and it'll then change to Search This PC. By searching this PC, I'm going to search all of the drives on this computer. So I'll search my C drive, I'll search the H drive, the G drive, the I drive. All of those will be accessible for me. So if you're unsure that you saved to the H drive, choose this PC, enter your search term, and then it will search all of the drives for you. As you can imagine, there's a lot more files to go through, so this search may take some more time. It's usually pretty quick, but depending on how many files you have, it could take a couple minutes. And as you see, as it starts populating, it starts updating the amount of results down here. And again, it's going to highlight every instance of the word that you typed for you. So a keyword is one way to do this, and that's usually the way a lot of people do. However, there are some additional search terms here. I'm just going to go ahead and come up here. There are some additional searches that you can use. One, if you know the file extension. So let's say we know this is a Word document. I can type doc.doc, and it'll pull up every Word document on my computer. Again, by typing doc, I'm going to get all of, if you've been here longer, we used to have older versions of Office, and the file extension for the older version of Office we had, 2003, was doc. So if I type in doc, I'm not only going to get doc, but docx, which is the new file format for Word. You'll also get anything that contains that root word. So again, I'll get anything that contains document, documentation, anything with that word in is going to populate as a result. And again, if that's in the file name, it'll show up as a result. If it's in the file location, it'll show up as a result. And if it's a word within the file, it'll show up as a result. So this is another great way to search if you need to access certain information. If you know that it's an Excel file, you can search an XLS or an XLSX and do it that way. So that's another way. If you know the file format but you don't know the name, you could search that way. You'll notice that when I clicked the search, it took me to this search tab in my File Explorer here. I'm just going to click out so that search stops running. But as soon as I'm on the search tab here, it's going to give me some additional search options. You'll see that the search tab pulls up, and now I have some additional options. The This PC is right there. Search this PC. I did it by clicking here. It's the same stuff, just two different ways of getting there. And then you have some additional search options. There's one by date modified. So if you know that you worked on this file today or yesterday or this week sometime, you can choose that date modified, and you'll be able to see all of the files that you worked on from that point in time. You'll notice that when I chose date modified, it went ahead and added that to my search terms. So now I'm not only searching the XLS, which are Excel files, but I'm also searching Excel files that were modified sometime this week. So you can add multiple search criteria to narrow down your search results as well. There's also the option of doing kind. So again, this is just like I showed you with the file extension. If you're not as familiar with file extensions, you can use the kind option. You know it's a picture or you know it's a video. You can choose that file type, and it will pull those up for you. So in this case, if you wanted to search for Word documents, you would choose the document option here. There's the way to search for size. If you know the size of your file, God bless you, I don't usually know the names or the sizes of my files, but if you know it's a large file or a small file, this may be something useful to use as an additional search criteria. And then there's some other properties here. The type, the name, the folder path, the tags. I prefer to just put it in the box here and then run the search, but you can do it this way as well. Just a lot of times there's many different ways of doing the same thing on the computer. And then there's also this recent searches option. So if you've recently run a search, you can come up here and, well, there it is. It's going to show you the last few searches that you've run. So instead of having to run the search again, you can simply choose it, and it'll pull up those same search results. And then if you want, you can clear that search history out as you wish. You can also save searches. So if you find yourself running the same search over and over, you can save it. I usually just use the recent searches option, but it's up to you. And then there's this close search. So just like clicking on this little X here, this will close the search option and take you back to your main file folder, or sorry, your main drive, I should say. And I think that's all I wanted to show you with regards to files and folders. Does anyone have any questions on what we've just gone over? No? Okay. So yes, that is all I wanted to cover there. And then a couple little odds and ends. I spoke at the very beginning of class about a way to access your H, your G, and your I drives when you are working outside of the legislature. Now, when you're inside the legislature, you're inside the Capitol, and you sign into your computer, everything's automatically going to work. You're behind our firewall, you get all of your drives, you get your Outlook, you get everything. When you leave the Capitol complex, we want everything to be secure, so you have to sign in to an internal application in order to access those folders and files. So what you'll want to do, and this is one of the handouts I sent you, there's two different options. If all you care about is accessing your legislative email from home, then there is the option to do webmail. Now, these are both linked right on our website. So if you go to our Legis homepage, legis.iowa.gov, you come down here and click on Applications in the black. And again, this is in the handout I gave you, so don't feel like you need to take too many notes. But there are two options here for external applications. One is webmail. This is the one where if you need access to your email from outside of the Capitol, you can use this option. You'll sign in with the same legislator's username and password that you sign in with each day. And when you do that, it's very quickly going to open up your legislative email. Now, it does look a little different than the Outlook that you're used to when you run it here. However, the functionality is the same, so you can do anything in here that you can do in Outlook. It's just a little bit different view here. So that's webmail. And again, that's just going to get you access to your legislative email. And that's not as popular as it once was, just for the simple fact that a lot of legislators now are putting email on devices and phones. So that's really how they access their email from outside the Capitol. However, this is the other way that you can do so from any computer with an internet connection. The other one that gives you access to absolutely everything here is our Citrix application. So again, I got here by going to our website, clicking legis.iowa.gov, clicking on Applications, and then over here along the left, I clicked on Citrix. Again, same username and password that you use for everything. This is your legislator's username and password. If you're using the legislative laptop, the software that's needed for this will already be installed for you. But if you're working on a machine that is not the legislature, you may need to download the receiver, or I sometimes advise people to just use the light version as well. This will prompt a download of the tool that you need. This will allow you to just use Citrix without the download. So the documentation explains that a little bit further. The light version usually works for my needs. So when I click on light version, it's going to open up and give me some different icons here. You guys will only have one icon. I have several because, like I said, I train different groups, so I need different ways to get into Citrix. But there'll be one, and it's just going to be called Citrix Desktop. You'll double-click on that. It's going to open up, get you behind our firewall, and get you all of the access that you have from within the Capitol. So if you're working from home, Citrix is most likely what you're going to be using. It sometimes says it's adjusting screen resolution. You can change that if you wish. There was an error message that popped up, but it's not needed for this training, so don't worry about that. And then this is what you'll see, and you'll have access to all of your information. So from within Citrix now, I can access all of my drives. And I can access the intranet. There is a portion of our website that is only internal. So when you're here at the Capitol, you'll see a link for the intranet down here in the black, and you'll be able to access it. When you're outside the Capitol, this link will not appear. It'll just go straight to sitemap. And again, that's by design. It's the internal portion of our website. It's not that we're hiding anything. It's just that there's some information out there that's not posted for approval yet. So an example of that would be committee draft meeting minutes. They write minutes after every committee meeting. They're not approved until the following meeting, but internal staff wants to have access to them before they're, quote, official, so we post them out on the internal portion of the website. So you can access the intranet from Citrix. You will notice that within Citrix, it's kind of a box within a box. So if I were to close this, I'm going to close out of Citrix. What I would want to do is close down this X to return me then to the Citrix desktop. Again, I have access to my legislative email by clicking on Outlook. And in this case, unlike webmail, this is going to look exactly like it does here at the Capitol. So if you like the look and feel of Outlook, you'll want to use the Citrix option to get to your email. Again, if I want to close this down, I'm going to close this little or X here. If I were to close this, it's going to shut down my entire Citrix session. This does time out after about, I think, a couple hours of inactivity, but generally if you sign in and you're working, it'll leave you signed in and you won't have any issues. If you do have issues or problems with Citrix or the installation, you can either come find us before you take the computer home, or you can call our help desk at any time, and we can walk you through how to install that. The help desk number is written at the top of all the handouts I've given you, but I'll just say it on the video here. It's 515-281-6506. We are open right now every weekday from 7 to 4:30 during the interim. However, during session, we have someone that takes the phone home overnight, every night, and we also have someone that takes the phone home over the weekend. So even if you have issues and it's outside of legislative business hours, you can give us a call and get some help. Within reason, of course, if you call at like 3 a.m., we might call you back when we wake up, but for the most part, you'll be able to get the help when you need it. And then there's also the legislative email address underneath that on all of the handouts, which is just helpdesk@legis.iowa.gov. So you can always write us there as well. But Citrix is exactly like being here at the legislature. You have access to all of your drives. So again, if I click on the File Explorer here, you can see I have my G, my H, and my I drives. You'll also get access to the chamber printers. There are 4 printers in each chamber, and if you need to, for example, print a document from your personal machine and you're here at the Capitol, you can use Citrix to do that and access the printers as well. So you get the printers, you get all of your network drives, you get your legislative email, and you get the intranet, which is that internal portion of the website. So using Citrix is exactly like being here at the Capitol. You get access to all of the information that you need. When you are finished, you'll simply just click the close button. It's going to prompt you if you've made some actions and you haven't saved it, I'm fine with leaving, and it'll close down your entire window. Now, it's not really usually an issue if you're using your own computer. If you are using a public machine, please do make sure that you sign out every time you log into Citrix or webmail before you walk away from the computer, just for security reasons. Hasn't been an issue in the past. I just say it as a best practice. So that's our website. And again, almost all of this information is accessible on our website. So again, if you want to access either Citrix or webmail, go to legis.iowa.gov, click on Applications, choose webmail or Citrix, sign in with your legislative username and password, and then it will open up that for you. There is an additional option here called Remote Desktop Connection. This is usually for LSA staff, though, so you guys won't be using that option. There is another one called Fortinet, and I forgot to send you the handout for this. I don't have it on this machine to show you, but basically what will happen is when you go home, if you take your legislative laptop home and you sign in, there'll be an sign-in options underneath. Well, let me show you here. I don't want to sign out, but when I can't sign out without disrupting the call. At any rate, what will happen, you'll see when you boot up that there will be a sign-in option underneath where you sign in. You click that button, there'll be one called VPN or Fortinet. You click that, you sign in with your legislator's username and password, and that is also a gateway to the internal portion of our website. That I find is even more seamless than Citrix, so I will pass along those instructions to you. We're still testing it, but for the most part, it looks really good to me. So Citrix is the tried and true way, but Fortinet is coming soon, and it was kind of developed because of COVID. And as you can see, the file size kind of shrinks in Citrix, and there are some other little caveats within Citrix that aren't great. So I prefer Fortinet. I'll send you guys that documentation after class. It's very, very simple, and it's very user-friendly. And then, what else did I want to talk about here? Changing your default printer. This is another one. If you are going to be working at the Capitol, that is very important. We don't know where you're sitting in the Capitol yet. The legislators haven't chosen their seats. They'll do so on the first day of session. So what you'll want to do when you get your new seat is look around, see which printer is closest to you in the chamber, and then choose that as your default printer. And that means that anytime you hit the print button, it's automatically going to go to that printer, and you know where all of your jobs are going. I believe in the House we set everyone to blue by default, and I don't remember in the Senate, I think it might be East 1, but I'm not sure. But we just chose a printer because we don't know where you're sitting, as I mentioned. So there's 4 printers in each chamber. That means there are 4 printers for 200 people in the House and 4 printers for 100 people in the Senate. They're all black and white, so even if you make your document really pretty and colorful, unfortunately, if you print it off on a chamber printer, it will be black and white. What you'll want to do, as I mentioned, is choose your default printer so that you know where your jobs are going. What you'll want to do is click down here in your search window, or what I usually do is just in the search, I type print. It's going to pop up this one called printers and scanners. And then if you sign in as a House member, you'll see all of the House printers. If you sign in as a Senate member, you're going to see all of the Senate printers. Now, again, this is signed in as me. I don't have all of them on mine. However, you will. When you sign in as a House member, you'll see the House printers. They are called red, yellow, green, and blue. When you're signed in as a Senate member, you'll see the 4 Senate printers. Those are East 1, West 1, East 2, and West 2. All of the printers are labeled on front so you can see which one you're looking for before you come in here and choose it. You find the printer that you want to be your default printer, and this is on your file management documentation. What you will do is you will simply choose the printer by clicking on it. You'll click the Manage button, and then you will say Set as Default. And from then on, that will be your default printer. You're able to see which one is your default printer because it will be labeled as such in your list of available printers as well. You can change this at any time. And of course, for individual jobs, if you want to print to a different printer for one job, you can absolutely choose a different printer. But this is, anytime you just hit print, it's going to go to that printer. And again, to choose the default printer, I selected the printer by left-clicking, I clicked Manage, I clicked Set as Default. And then I went back, and I was able to see that my default printer is that printer. Now again, this is really only important if you're going to be at the Capitol. If you're working from home, you probably don't need to set your default printer. You may already have one set. But if you are in the chamber, this is definitely something I recommend you do the first day right after you pick your seat so that you both know where your stuff is going. Now this is a per machine setting. So just because you as the clerk have made blue your default printer, that doesn't mean the legislator has done the same. You have to both choose a default printer. So if your legislator is, confused on how to do that, it'd be great if you could help them. It's always good if you guys are printing to the same printer so you know where your stuff is going. There are some confidential documents from time to time, just some other things that legislators wouldn't want somebody to pick up from them. So when you print something, it's a good idea to, A, know where it's going, so set your default printer on both machines, legislator and clerk. And then you also want to go up and grab your print job in a pretty timely fashion. As I mentioned, there's a lot of people in the chamber and very few printers. So everybody's kind of hustling to get their job out. Once you hit print, good idea to go up and grab your job. A lot of times people are all printing the same bill at the same time or something like that, and somebody else may grab your copy. It's not usually an issue, but again, it's just something I point out. Again, it is black and white. They are automatically loaded with letter paper in the House. In the Senate, there are also envelope feeders that are there. If you need to print off a different kind of paper, you can come find me and I can show you how to manually feed those kind of pages into the printer. If you know what you're doing, cool. If not, I definitely recommend you come find me so I can show you the proper way to load different kinds of paper. Sometimes legislators want to put envelopes or postcards or brochures, things like that, on different sizes of paper, different types of paper. And we can absolutely do that, but it's a good idea to come find me so we can manually feed it and make sure that somebody else doesn't hit print and grabs your paper. There is also a printer behind each one of the chambers. So if you have a really large print job, it's a good idea to choose that printer to do so. Just as I mentioned, we have very few printers and a lot of people. So if you're printing off a 300-page document, you might have some angry legislators behind you asking what's taking so long. Again, it's not usually an issue, but I just pointed out. So that's setting your default printer. And again, that's really only an issue if you're here at the Capitol. Otherwise, of course, you can choose whatever printer you'd like. And I'm going to keep getting messages here from my Outlook as I have different meetings scheduled, so just we'll ignore those. And that's really all I have to show you with regards to file management, accessing stuff from home, and then a default printer. Does anyone have any questions on what I've covered before we move on to Outlook? I will take your silence as a no. So we'll move on. When you are using your legislative computer, you will see that there is a little O in your taskbar here. That is the Outlook application. You'll also usually see an icon on your desktop Or, of course, you can always come down here and type Outlook and pull it up this way. I generally use the taskbar option. I just click Outlook, and it opens up my legislative email here. If there is an envelope icon in front of your Outlook, that denotes that you have new unread mail. And we'll talk about that here a little bit more in a bit. First thing you're going to notice is this is the view when you come in to your Outlook initially. Again, every legislator is a little bit different. Everybody likes to view things different, but this is the default view that we've given you for the account. And I'll show you right now how you can make changes, move things around. A lot of these settings are per machine. So again, if you make the change on your machine, doesn't mean that your legislator or clerk has done the same. You guys want to make sure that, again, you're communicating to, or you can both view it 2 different ways as well. It's up to you. First thing I want to talk about is this area up here, and that's called the Quick Access Toolbar. We do have these across all of our Office products, and this is our way of kind of tailoring these to make it a little bit easier to access some tools that aren't readily accessible on the ribbon already. So these are tools that we noticed a lot of people would use, so we went ahead and just put them up here. And let me do one thing here quickly. I just want to, they're out of order, so I want to put them back in order the way they need to be. Okay. So what you'll see, again, by default, they'll be located up here. You'll notice you can hover over each one of these, and it will tell you what they're going to do. The first one that you will see in the order is the Send Receive All folders. And that's just kind of like a check mail button. If somebody says, I sent you an email and you don't see it in your inbox yet, and you're impatient like me, you can hit that, and it kind of just runs a check against the server, pushes out all outgoing mail, pulls in all incoming mail, just hopefully get your email a little bit quicker. The next button is probably my favorite button in all applications. It is Undo. Now, it's going to be grayed out initially because you can't undo something if you haven't done anything yet. But let's pretend I went ahead and deleted this email. You'll notice then it lights up. I can click it, and it will automatically undo the last action that I've done. So if you hit a button and everything goes kooky, come up here and hit that trusty Undo button. You'll notice that when I undo something, the toggle changes to a redo, and that would redo the action that I've undone. So you can always back up at least one step if you mess something up. The next one over is called Automatic Replies. This is sometimes referred to as the out-of-office assistance, and a lot of legislators set these over the interim. So if you're clerking for a legislator that's been here before, make sure that they don't have automatic replies turned on once session begins, unless, of course, that's what they want. It's very easy to see if they're turned on or not. There's a big yellow bar that goes across the top of the whole account, and it says automatic replies are being sent for this account. You can turn it off by clicking the turn off button, and now those automatic replies aren't being sent. But what this does essentially is it sends out a message to anyone sending you an email. So a lot of times legislators will do an out-of-office assistant or an automatic reply after session ends. They'll write a little message saying, session has ended for the year. I may not check my email regularly. I will get back to you as soon as I do so. Yada, 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 whatever you want to say. So you click on that icon, and then here's where you can turn it off and on. By default, it's going to say turn off or do not send automatic replies. But if you choose the next radio button, it opens up some options here. Send automatic replies. You can turn it on while this is turned on, and you click OK. Again, you will see that button across the top. What an automatic reply does is anytime somebody emails you, it automatically sends them the message that you have prepared for them. It's only going to work once a day. So if somebody sends you 14 emails in a day, they're going to get one automatic reply back. That's by design, just so we don't inundate people with the same message over and over. So you can either turn it off or on using the radio buttons here, or you can do the kind of set it and forget it method, where if you know your legislator is going to be gone or they want to turn it on for a specific date range and time range, you can check this box here, set the start time and end time using the drop-downs provided. Maybe if I wanted to start sending this out at, I don't know, 10 a.m., and I wanted to stop sending it out at 9 a.m. tomorrow, I would fill in the dates, hit OK. Once 10 p.m. hits, it'll start sending those out, and once 9 a.m. tomorrow hits, it'll stop sending them out. So it's kind of just an auto. If you want to do that, check the box, make your selections from the drop-down here. Down here is where you will type the automatic reply that you want to send. There are two different tabs here, one for inside the organization, one for outside the organization. You can have 2 separate messages for each of these groups. You can have the same message for each of these groups. It doesn't matter. It depends on your preference. But the inside my organization is going to send this message to anyone within the legislature. So any legislator, any clerk, anybody that works here at the legislature is considered inside the organization. Anyone that is not is considered outside the organization. So sometimes people will have a slightly different message. Maybe inside the organization you can say, contact me on my personal cell phone or whatever, and maybe outside the organization you don't want to be giving your cell phone out to everyone. That's an example of why you might want a different message. But you'll just come down here, type whatever you want. This is going to say, I am in class until 12 p.m. I'll respond after class, thanks. You have all of your word tools here. You can change the font, the layouts, the color, whatever you like, the size. Again, when you do so, make sure that if I change the message here, for example, and I hit OK, it is always going to prompt you and say, you changed your auto-reply message for people inside your organization. Do you also want to change it for people outside your organization? So it gives you the opportunity to say yes, then it moves to that tab, and you could go ahead and put your other one here. Most times what people will do is just a simple copy and paste, highlight, I copy and paste, I say OK. But you want to make sure that you have something on both of these tabs. On the outside the organization, there is one other setting here that says auto reply to people outside my organization. There's an option to do contacts only, so that would be all of your Outlook contacts you can use, or there's the option to just do anyone outside the organization, which is the default. But that's the only other setting. So turn that off and on as you wish. Again, it's very obvious when it's turned on. You see that big yellow thing across the top of your app, or across the top of your page. So it's very obvious that automatic replies are being sent.
When there's an automatic reply, does the mail still stay as unread?
Absolutely. Yes, good question. The question was, does the mail still stay as unread when you're sending auto replies? And the answer is yes. But again, it's very easy to see right away, and all you have to do is hit that turn off button, and it goes back to just incoming mail and allowing you to see replies as needed. The next one over is a print preview. If you need to print an email for whatever reason, you'd simply select the email, hit this button, shows you a live print preview of what's going to look like when it prints off. Here is where you're going to choose your printer. Again, whatever you've selected as your default printer will be chosen automatically. You can, of course, change the printer for whatever job you wish. There may be separate styles as well, but you can always get a live preview by just clicking on whatever you want and seeing the live preview over here. This takes you to what's called the Backstage or File tab area. So to exit this, if I don't want to print, I would just click on the little arrow to take me back to my Home tab and back into my Outlook. The last one up here, and in mine it's the first because I moved around the order, is called Recover Deleted Items. There's a couple of fail-safes in place for deleting messages. As I mentioned, email is already backed up on our server, so there's not anything that you need to do to save email. We'll back it up for you. However, sometimes people delete things without intending to or mistakenly, and it becomes quite tedious to try to get those back. But we've made it as easy as we can. So here's a good example of some spam that I don't want. If I right-click, which is what I usually do, and delete, you can also come up here and hit delete, same thing. And as I go through this, I'm a right-clicker. Right-clicking is always going to give you some options here. Left-clicking is always going to perform an action. Typically, what is available in the right-click menu is going to mirror what's available up top in the ribbon. But I'm just going to go ahead and delete this message. So I've deleted it. And now, oh, my legislator was actually reading that, and they need that back. It will go into your deleted items folder. This will either be under your favorites, or if you scroll down, I have a lot of subfolders here. It's at the bottom of your list of folders in your inbox. This is your deleted items folder. Items here will remain indefinitely until you elect to delete them. So if your legislator deleted an email 20 years ago and they've never cleaned this out, it's in here somewhere. So every once in a while, though, people get proactive, and I have a couple clerks a year that are like, okay, this is ridiculous. We have like over 100,000 email messages in here. We got to get rid of some of these. Okay, great. So you go in here, and you start deleting these. Or you could say something like, and I'm going to, right-click and say empty folder. And it's going to prompt you. Every time you delete something, it's going to make sure that that's what you want to do first. So it's going to say, everything in deleted items folder will be permanently deleted. Should I continue? If you say yes, everything in that folder is going to be what's called permanently deleted. I'm not actually going to wait for this because I have a lot, as you can see. There we go. All right, of course it's going to freeze on me. Stand by. Just going to close out of Outlook to stop that. Sorry about that. And when I'm back in here, let's pretend I'm in my deleted items and I've just chosen a bunch of emails to delete. So I click them, I say delete. Again, it's going to say these will be permanently deleted. Do you want to continue? I say yes. They're now removed from my deleted items. Right about now is where somebody goes, oh no, you know what? There was something in there that I actually did need. So that happens. There's a second opportunity to get those files back, and that is recover deleted items. This will show you all of the files that have been permanently deleted within the last few weeks. It's going to put the most recently deleted. You can click on the column headings. By default, it's going to show you the most recently deleted up to, oh, no, actually I flipped it. It'll show you the most recently deleted up top, and then it will go backward in time chronologically. So you can see all of these emails have been deleted. It gives you all of the information on the email, so hopefully you can find the right one to recover. And if I drag this out, I can see the email subject, when it was deleted, who it was from, when I received it, and who it was sent to, if that's an option. So if I wanted to recover any one of these, I could simply hold down my control key, and let's say I want to recover these four. I would hold down my control key to select multiples, say OK, and now they've been added back into my deleted items folder. They're not going to go to your inbox, they're going to go back into your deleted items folder, so it's just like one step back. So everything in recover deleted items, I believe it sits there for at least 2 months, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines, but it's quite a long time. So if you delete something and a week later you find out you need to get it back, you can still recover it. If it goes past that point, the hope is that if you haven't needed it all that time, you won't need it. But if you do need something that's further back and is no longer in your recover deleted items, come find us at the help desk and we can help you recover that. Because as I said, everything in your email is backed up. So that's recover deleted items. If you accidentally permanently delete something, you can use this to recover those. Again, if you delete something, it's going to go into your deleted items folder. It will stay there indefinitely, unless you elect to actually take some action and delete them from the deleted items folder. So that is your quick access toolbar. There are a couple of different options as well. If you want some additional buttons up here at the top, or you find yourself doing certain actions over and over and it's not readily accessible, maybe you want to have empty deleted items up here, you can see I can click on this little arrow next to the quick access toolbar and I can check or uncheck what I want added or removed from the quick access toolbar this way. This is a per machine setting, so a clerk can have as many buttons as they want. It won't affect the legislator and vice versa. So you can have this customized to however you want it to be. There is also, if I scroll down here, the last two choices. If you don't see the command that you want in the list of suggested commands here, maybe I want to be able to do something I don't see, I can click more commands. It's going to take me into the popular commands for Outlook, or I can even access all commands from Outlook. And anything that can be done in Outlook, I can create a button for. So maybe I find myself wanting to create new appointment or something. I choose a button over here, click the add to add it over here to my quick access toolbar. I can change the order of these as I want by using the arrows here to move these up or down in my list. Right now it goes vertical, as you can see, but it's actually left to right. So this would be the leftmost one down to the rightmost one. If you want to remove something from your quick access toolbar, you just reverse the process. So I would choose what I don't want on my Quick Access Toolbar over here at the right, hit the Remove button, and now I've removed it from my Quick Access Toolbar. When you're finished making your changes, you'd say OK, and now those changes have been made. This will stay however you set it indefinitely until you again elect to make a change. The last command on here, if you click the arrow, is the option to show it below the ribbon. So some people like to see it here. It's a little less distance for your cursor to have to travel. It's also a little bit easier to see when they're in color and not kind of ghosted up here. I'm so used to seeing them up at the top that that's where I leave them. But if you prefer to see them below the ribbon, you can absolutely do that by just using this option here to move them above or below the ribbon. And again, that's a per machine setting, so if you want to customize it for you and your legislator wants to do something different, you can absolutely do that. That's your Quick Access Toolbar. Next thing I want to talk about is the File tab area. And a lot of the information that's contained back here, we've already kind of tried to post on the Quick Access Toolbar, so like your auto replies and things like that that aren't readily accessible. So a lot of this information is the same, but this is what's called the backstage area. This is where you can make changes to Outlook as a whole. So if you want to change a default font or you want to change the color, I don't know. However you want this to appear, you can make changes to Outlook as a whole back here. I wouldn't mess with account settings. We generally take care of that for you. As you can see, automatic replies are back here as well. Save as is back here. Again, there's really no need to save emails. If you want to, you can. There's really no need to do so because they're already backed up. Save as Adobe Pdf. Again, you're usually not converting email to PDF, so that's not a big one either, but it's back here. Print is exactly like clicking on Print Preview in the Quick Access Toolbar. Again, it's going to take you to the File tab area, show you a live preview of what's going to be printed, allow you to choose your printer and make changes to the look and feel of the document. But the one I wanted to talk about is this one called Options. Like I said, this is where you can come and make changes to Outlook as a whole. So if you want a different color, or you want a different background, or you want the font size to be bigger, that's a big one. Some people don't see as well as others, and some people like the font to be a little bit bigger than the default font size. If you have questions or problems or you don't want to do this by yourself, again, please come find us at the help desk, and we're happy to help you do so. But if you know what you're doing, there's some real easy ones in Office 2019. There's a background here that basically puts this little design up here at the top across all of your Office products. There's different Office themes here. You can change this however you want, say OK, and as you can see, I've changed the look and feel of my Outlook. I got little underwater creatures up here now, and it's all dark gray. Again, this is up to you. However you're going to see it, however you're going to use it, it's fine. I'm going to leave this no background. I'm going to put it back to colorful because that's our default. But this is where I can come in and make changes as a whole. And again, if you're uncertain of how to do something, please come find us at the help desk. We're happy to help you. And even though it is to Outlook as a whole, it is per machine. So just because you increase the font size on your version of Outlook on your computer does not mean it's going to be like that on your legislator or clerk machine. You have to do it on both machines in order to see the same thing. One of the last things that people get confused about, myself included, is how to exit the file area. So I'm back here. I went into my options. I made my changes. Generally, this one is not an issue because it takes you back to the Home tab. But I'm in here, I'm looking around, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I want to go back to my email. Exit actually closes down Outlook. Why they made it that way, I'm not sure. I would think exit would take you back into the main component of Outlook, but exit will actually close down Outlook. So if you do that, it's going to close. The proper way to get out of the File tab area is just to use the back-facing arrow in the upper left, and that'll return you to the main screen in Outlook. Couple other things to point out. Up here at the top, there are some ribbon display options. The ribbon is this area here that contains all of the tools. If you click on this ribbon, it gives you some additional options. You can collapse the ribbon. Now, if you click on these, it will drop down and show you all of the tools on the ribbon, but by default, that's not going to be there. So it just takes up a little less space. Again, it's an option that you can decide if you like or you don't. There's also the auto hide ribbon, which will remove everything from the top. I'm not a fan of that one. And then there's, of course, the one that we do by default, which is show tabs and ribbon. So it's going to show you the tabs at the top and the ribbon down below with all of the tools here. This is your minimize. It doesn't close Outlook. It simply minimizes it to your taskbar here. To relaunch it, you would just open it back up. This one is called Restore Down. It allows you to change the size, so instead of having a full screen, I can make this a certain size of my screen. Hitting that again will take it back to the full screen or maximize view. Clicking the X will close Outlook. And again, if you're ever unsure of what something does, if you just hover your cursor over the button, it'll tell you, or tooltip, or show you what it's going to do before you actually click on it to do that action. Next, let's talk about your folders here. By default, all legislators have one account and one inbox. As you can see, my inbox has many different subfolders underneath it. So just like with your files, just like with your files on your drive, anything you can do to organize your email is going to help you immensely to get to it quicker, to respond quicker. A lot of legislators and clerks have their own system where I move it into this folder and my legislator knows they need to answer it. I move it into this folder and they know that it's a committee meeting or what have you. This is up to you, however you want to do this system. But you're going to start off, if you're new this year, you're just going to have an inbox. That's all you're going to have. All of your incoming mail will come into that inbox. If you want to create a subfolder underneath your inbox, what I like to do is simply right-click on the inbox, choose New Folder, name the folder. Again, this is just like with file management. If you want something to appear first in the list and it's not first alphabetically, you can put a 1 in front of it, and it'll appear at the top of the list. Again, just like with the File tab, like with the File Explorer we showed earlier, I've just created a folder. I haven't added any content here yet. It's very easy to move content. If I wanted to move this over to a folder, I can click it and drag it over using my left mouse. You'll see that it disappears from my main inbox and will now be found in my subfolder here. You can have folders inside of folders. So if you ever see an arrow next to a folder, that indicates a subfolder within that folder. So you can have multiple folders. Again, however you want to organize your email, it's up to you. But it's good to have communication between you and your legislator so you both know where things are going and they're being saved. Create as many folders as you want, create as many subfolders as you want, move them around as you see fit. By default, everything is going to go into your inbox. That is where all of your incoming mail will come, and then from that point you can click and drag, copy and paste into all of these subfolders as you wish. There is no limit to the amount of email. We get a lot of email, as you can imagine. Everybody's got public email addresses, and people are always writing in with questions, concerns, comments. So there is no limit. If you get a message that says something like your inbox is almost full, ignore it. You'll be able to tell that your inbox is almost full or there's a problem with your account because somebody from computer services will come and talk to you about your account. So that's another thing to point out, but I'll talk about that here a little bit more when we get to spam. So that's your inbox. So scroll down. These are all of my subfolders. I have a lot of subfolders. Depending on who you work for, you may as well, or you may be creating those yourself. The next one here is drafts. These are messages that are kind of in a waiting room area. So let's say I create an email message and I want to send this to someone. I'll just send it to me so we can see it. So I send it to someone, and instead of hitting send, let's say I want to keep this in my draft section. Instead of hitting send, what I would do is I would click on the save button up here at the top. It's going to save this message into my draft folder. I can close it, and now I can come in here and send this at a later time. So what this is like, I see a lot of people use this if they want their legislator to check over something, like the clerk drafts the email. Before they send it, they want the legislator to read it over and make sure it looks good. Save the message. It goes into your drafts folder. Then I can come in here, and I can quickly say, yep, looks good, and send it off. Once you send it, it disappears from your drafts folder. That drafts folder is there by default. It will be at the bottom underneath all of your inbox subfolders. Sent items. There is also a setting in our email that will save a copy of every single message that you send. So a lot of people are used to carbon copying themselves on messages. It's really unnecessary because, like I said, you're already going to get a copy of everything in your sent items. And this is a great place to come if your legislator says, hey, I want you to resend that message you sent to so-and-so last week. You can come in here, pull up the message, hit reply, reply all, or forward. Generally, you're going to be forwarding it, and then you can access it that way. This is also a great place if you know or you've lost an attachment or an email file and you responded to somebody with it. You can come in here, and again, it saves a copy of every single message that you send. Again, these don't disappear unless you elect to remove them. So as you can see, there are quite a few sent items in my sent items folder. But this is for your benefit if you need to access those. Deleted items we already talked about a little bit. Again, anytime you delete anything from your inbox or any of your subfolders, it's going to go into this deleted items folder. It will remain there indefinitely unless you elect to remove it and permanently delete it. If you permanently delete it, you can come up here and use the recover deleted items to recover those messages or contacts or what have you that you need to recover for up to 2 months. Junk email. This is a folder that's just created by Outlook by default. This is where you can move some spam if you don't want it. Generally, my advice with spam is to just delete it. But if you want to set up some rules, for example, to send certain messages to junk, this is always a good place to check if somebody says they sent you a message and you didn't receive it. Sometimes it will be mistakenly emailed or labeled as spam. Generally, spam doesn't get through, but sometimes it does, and it will go into your junk email folder if you set up a rule to do that. There's an outbox here. The outbox is where messages that have a delayed delivery on them are saved to. So if I send a message and I delay delivery until tomorrow, it's going to sit in my outbox until that date and time, and then it will send out the email. This is just kind of a waiting area. It's generally empty, again, unless you've used the delay delivery option for email. And then RSS feeds and search folders, you'll probably never use those. But let's talk a little bit about spam. Spam is unfortunately unavoidable in our world, especially because all of the legislators have public-facing email addresses and anyone can write. Now, 95% of the spam, we block at the source. So we know that there are certain malicious people out there. Unfortunately, they can always get around whatever firewalls we put in place. We could probably get rid of most of the spam if we simply disallowed pictures from your email, but we don't want to do that because you want to be able to send and receive pictures. So it's kind of a fine line we have to walk between that and also with the different topics of bills that come up. We don't want to block certain words, even though it seems like those words would be good to block. So this is a learning curve every year. Every year we have different ones that come through. Every year we have different bills and topics and everything else. If you see yourself getting spam again and again from a certain person with a certain subject, come find me at the help desk, give our help desk a call. We can set up a rule for you to either delete it or move it directly to your junk email folder if you want to get a copy of it. Best with spam, don't ever forward it on. Essentially what you do when you do that is you tell the spammer that your email account is active, and then you give them another email address that they can spam. Don't forward on spam. I might ask you to do it, though. If I ask you to do it, then it's fine. Sometimes we need an example of the spam so we can submit it to our server. A lot of times when spam comes through, it'll have maybe spam in the subject. It'll have possibly spam in the subject. It'll have probably spam in the subject. Now, I've seen good email get labeled as spam. I've seen bad email get labeled as spam. Again, it just kind of depends on the particular email and the person and the domain that they're sending from, a lot of different things. Always a good idea with junk mail. Never open up any attachment from someone you don't know. Never click on any link from someone you don't know or if it seems suspicious. If it seems suspicious, again, you can give our help desk a call, come find me. I can take a look and we can see if it actually is spam or if it's malicious. One thing to point out that's very important. Computer services will never, ever, 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 ever ask you for your user ID and password. We won't do that. So if someone's asking for your user ID and password, it's not us. It's someone that means to do some phishing. There are emails that come through every year. We had a couple of legislators get hacked over the interim, and they were sending out messages from their account like, I'm in Europe and I need money. Click here to send me money. Again, those are generally going to be spam. Great idea with spam. Best thing to do with spam is to just delete it and move on with your day. If you are getting, again, the same spam over and over from a particular person with a particular subject, let us know. We can help you set up a rule, or we can submit a report to the server to block those from coming in. If you see an example of spam, again, just delete it. If I ask you to forward it to me, of course you can do so. Again, don't open up any attachments, don't click any links, never ever give out your password. That's just a good rule of thumb, period. We don't want anyone getting hacked, and if we do, then we have to change the password, and there's all sorts of security protocol we have to go through. So it happens to everybody. If it's you, don't be embarrassed. Come find us. The sooner we get your password changed and we get everything updated, the better. But it is a fine line we have to walk every year. Let me give you an example. One year, we were getting spammed to death with Lunesta ads, anti-sleep ads. So we put in Lunesta, we blocked that. They started spelling Lunesta slightly different with a 1 instead of an L. We blocked that. They started spelling Lunesta with a little @ symbol at the end instead of an A. We blocked that. So we'd finally gotten every iteration of the word Lunesta blocked, finally blocked them, and then a bill comes up dealing with sleep aids, including, you guessed it, Lunesta. So now we can't block those anymore because they might actually be good email that your constituents are sending relating to a bill. So that's why we kind of have to walk a kind of fine line. We don't want to block anything that you do need, but we want to block things that you don't. So it's a learning curve every year. If you have issues, you need help, of course, come find us. That's what we at the help desk are for. Otherwise, like I said, best rule of thumb with spam is to just delete it and move on with your day. But that's my little spiel on spam. It will happen. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it, but hopefully we can cut down on the amount that you get. Down here at the bottom are the different ways to get to different portions of your Outlook application. Of course, by default, it takes you to the mail section. This will take you to your calendar. Again, each legislator has one calendar that they have created. This is your contacts. This will take you to your legislative contacts. And then you have tasks and some different options here. I don't really spend a lot of time on those. Nobody really uses them. But that is what these are for. And then, oops, where's my stuff? Thank you. Down here is where you can zoom in. Unfortunately, the zoom only works in the reading pane. And by default, that's how we set this up. So you see your folders over here. If you want to have some favorites up here at the top, you can click any one of these and say add to favorites, or remove from favorites. If you want them to appear just up here at the top. You'll see your folder structure over here at the left. You'll see your inbox or your incoming messages, all the email contained in the subfolders in this panel here. This is the reading pane, so anytime I click on any one of these, it'll open it up and show me a preview over here so I can see what it is before I actually have to double click and open the message. And then you have what's called your to-do panel over here. And this contains your calendar, your next upcoming appointments, and then it may have a people pane here as well. I've removed it because I found that highly annoying. But this only works for the reading pane. So yes, if you need it a little bit bigger, this is great for that, but it will not increase the font size of everything else. So that's where if you need some help, you can come find us at the help desk and we can show you how to adjust the font for Outlook in general, as opposed to just doing this little zoom here, which only works on the reading pane. Lastly, there's another view here called the reading view, and what this does is essentially just collapses your folder over here, leaves your email and your reading pane, and it also gets rid of the to-do pane over here. Everybody can do this differently. Again, it's a per machine setting. You can do this however you want. You can minimize these by using the little arrows here. I can close this by removing the peak. Set this however you wish. It is up to you. You can either click and drag to resize any of these sections as well, or you can come up to the View tab. And again, as I mentioned, the folder pane is here. This is your reading pane. I'm going to clip it back there. This is your reading pane here, and then this is your to-do bar. I usually just do calendars and tasks. Sorry, I just do calendar. I don't like tasks either. But by default, you may have people or tasks turned on. This is where you can turn that off. So you can resize this however you want. This is a per machine setting. You can be looking at it one way, and your legislator or clerk can be looking at it another. It won't affect you unless you actually take action on the email, and then it will affect you both. So those are your folders. The next section to talk about is your actual email. So depending on the folder that you've clicked here, it's going to show all of the email contained in that folder. And again, everything's going to come to your inbox by default unless you set up a rule to send them elsewhere. So this will be all of your incoming mail. If there is something that is unread, you'll be able to tell because that is the number indicated here. It will bold the folder in question. It will put a number after it. That denotes the number of unread messages, not the total number of messages. As you can see, I have far more than 5 messages in here. Down here in the status bar, you can see that I actually have over 2,000 messages. 5 of them are, quote, unread. Between the legislator and the clerk, work out a system how you want this to work. We do have a setting in place where this will automatically mark something as read. If you click on it, you look at it in the reading pane and you click away, as you can see, it marks it as read. Now for Outlook, read means open. We used to have it so that it would just leave it unread. You could click away from it and it would leave it unread. The reason we took that off is because a lot of reporters and other constituents were sending read receipts to legislators and then getting annoyed when they were, quote, deleting them without reading them. Now, as you can see, when I click on a message, I can read it here without actually double-clicking to open the message. So if they sent a read receipt, what would happen is they'd get a message back saying, this representative deleted your message before reading it. Now, that's not the case. They read it right here, but they didn't open the message. So Outlook determines that it was not read. So what we did, as I mentioned, is we just made a setting so that if you click on an unread message and you read it, or you don't, if you click on it for 10 seconds and click away, of course it's not going to work now, click away, it marks it as read. And that's just to get around that read receipt. It's not as big of an issue anymore. A lot of people don't send read receipts anymore, but that's why that setting is in place. If you want to mark something as unread, again, you can simply either change the setting in your default, and I can help you do that, or you can just right-click and say mark as unread. Some legislators and clerks have a little system where they say everything that I've marked as unread is something that you need to address or something. Up to you how you want to handle that. But that is what that number indicates. Again, it will be bolded, so you'll be able to tell if you have any incoming mail in any subfolders because there'll be a little number after it that denotes the number of unread or unopened messages in that particular folder. By default, what you will see is everything organized by date. The most recent will pop in at the top, least recent going back in time. You can toggle this or change. You can toggle this by clicking the arrow with the oldest on top, toggle it back, newest on top. You can organize these however you wish. Most people stick with the date setting. That's what I prefer. But sometimes if you're looking for a particular email message, you can do it based on who it was to, who it was from, if there are attachments, etc. You can sort your email however you wish. Like I said, I generally leave it with the default setting of date. There's also a little toggle up here that confuses some people. By default, it's going to show everything. Sometimes people inadvertently click this unread, and now it looks like, oh my goodness, where did all of my email messages go? I have more than one, I know I do. That's, again, just because it's pulling out the unread messages. If I click all, it goes back to showing me all of my messages, regardless of if they're read or not. Again, there is a search up here that allows you to search your folder for anything. So just like with our File Explorer, if we want to search for something, I can enter in a search term, hit enter, and it will pull up all of the email that matches that search criteria. Again, this is a very comprehensive search, so it will pull up if it finds that word in the sender field, in the to field, in the subject line, and in the body of the email message. So you can always use that search if needed. I'm going to go ahead and close it. To close the search, you simply click on this little X here, and it goes back to showing you your folder contents as normal. This will allow you to search subfolders as well. So if I wanted to search, right now it's just going to search my current mailbox when I enter that. As you can see, I have the option to also do my subfolders, my current mailbox, all mailboxes, all mail items. So you can choose what you want to search as well. So if you're not sure if it's in a particular folder, you want to search subfolders, you can choose that option as well. So there is a search feature here. You are going to see by default the sender name, the subject line, and then like one line of text from the email. You'll also see the date and time when it was received. For the current day, you're just going to see the time. For previous days, it'll show you the day and the time when it was sent. If you reply to a message, it will also denote that for you. So let me find one I've replied to here. I'm actually in my email account, so hold on. Reply. When you reply to a message, if you click on it, it will show you right here, you replied to this message on such and such a date at such and such a time. You'll also see that the envelope has a little arrow in front of it, and that denotes that I replied to the message. And it matches these ones here at the top. So reply, reply all, and forward. If the arrow is blue and going the other way, it's a forward. If the arrow is purple and facing the left, it's a reply or reply all. And again, when you click on the email, you'll be able to see very quickly if you replied to that message or not. So if somebody says, hey, I didn't get your response, You can click on the email and see that you responded at the date and time that you did so. Again, when you click on a message, it's going to open up here in the reading pane. Again, if you click away from it, it will mark it as read or opened, just so the read receipt issue doesn't happen. So you don't actually have to open any of your emails. If you want to actually open a message, what you would do is double-click on the email, and then it opens up like this and allows you to see everything. The reading pane for me usually works for my purposes, so I don't usually open messages, and that's why that reading pane setting is there. So you'll get, again, the sender. When you click on the email message itself, you're going to get all of the information about the email. There's also some additional things that you can do in addition to moving to subfolders to categorize or move or organize your email. And anything you guys can do to organize your email is going to be extremely helpful. So, a couple things I like to show. The first one is categorize. And this allows you to basically color code your emails. I respond really well to color coding, so I use this a lot. Again, it's up to you in the legislator if you want to use this feature, but I know some clerks and legislators have a system where anything they've put in blue category means it's for this committee. Anything they put in red is for this particular bill. Anything they put in yellow, the legislator has to respond to, or what have you. This is a system that you can use if you like. It is, of course, not required. But if you right-click on the email, one of the options here is categorize, or if you click on the email, it's also up here. I'm a right-clicker, but there's always the same tool up here in the toolbar. What this will do is, by default, you're going to get ones that say like yellow category, red category, green category. I've used this frequently, so I've already created several categories here to go ahead and color code my email messages. So, to create a new category, what you want to do is come down here and choose all categories. You'll say new. And then you can label it whatever you want. Maybe this is House File 345. And anything with House File 345, I want to categorize here. You choose your color. 25 different color options. That's not to say that you can't reuse colors. You can reuse them if needed. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. So I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to say OK. It's going to check that box. You can categorize it into multiple categories. Maybe this is dealing with House File 345 and also deals with training and also deals with rules analysis, and let's pretend it also deals with RMS. I can categorize however I wish by checking the boxes here. I click OK, and then you can see it puts this little color code up here. Now, it only has enough space to show 3 categories here, so these would be the last 3 categories that you chose. However, you're not limited to 3 categories. As you can see, if I click on the email message, it shows me all 4 categories that I've assigned here. So the good thing about doing categories is, 1, it gives you that visual cue with the color, and 2, later on, if you're doing categories, what you can do is come up here, organize by date instead, and do categories, and it will sort into categories. So this comes in handy where, okay, everybody that's contacted me on 345, I've tabbed with this category. Now I'm going to sort my email messages, and I know that everybody tabbed in orange I need to respond to. If you tag something into multiple categories, it will show up under each category. So I tagged that one message under RMS and also under rules analysis. You can see that a copy of the message was saved in both places. So it's not going to pick or choose categories. It's going to put it as a result underneath each one of the categories. Again, something I like to use. It's totally up to you if you want to take advantage of that functionality. I like to use it. The other one that you can do is a flag. And again, you can see the same one up here. It's called follow-up. This allows you to either set like an electronic to-do task, or it'll let you create reminders, or it lets you just have the visual cue of a flag. So if you mark something for follow-up, what you will do is you will choose essentially a due date. So maybe I need to get to this email today. I click on that. You'll see that it puts a little flag here, and when I click on the message, it tells me that it's flagged. Follow-up, start by Wednesday, January 6th. It's due by Wednesday, January 6th. So you can put a reminder in. Maybe if this isn't answered by 4 p.m., you want to pop up a reminder and let the person know. This will work for both of you. So if you set a reminder, it'll pop up for your legislator as well. So that's where that could come in handy. If you want your legislator, or they want you to get to something by end of day, they can set a little reminder for you. You'll see the flag, and then also if you click on the email message, you can see the due date here. If it goes past the due date, what will happen is it will put this text in red. And that's all that happens. It just denotes that you're overdue on this particular deadline that you've set. Obviously, these aren't binding deadlines unless it is with your legislator. So there's several options here: tomorrow, next week, no date. You can set a custom date. You can add a reminder. I use no date a lot. That doesn't create the task associated with it, so it's not going to mark it as overdue, but it does give me that visual indicator that there's a flag here. So sometimes I'll use that as just like a little visual cue that this is an important one. Or, again, there's an option to add a reminder at a certain time. If you want to show that something is complete, maybe this was flagged and you want to show that it is now complete, you can click that. It puts a little checkbox in, and then again on your email, it's going to say it was completed at that particular time, or you can clear it off entirely, and it's just like you never clicked the flag at all. So when you flag something with a due date, that is going to create a task. Most people don't use tasks, but again, it's just going to basically mark this as follow-up, and then once that due date passes, if you haven't taken action, it's going to put your email in red. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? No. Okay, moving on. Reading pane is pretty self-explanatory. Not going to spend a lot of time here. Basically, you click on the email. It shows you a preview of the email message in the reading pane. One thing to point out that's a little bit different from previous versions of Office is there is a reply all, and forward right at the top of the messages now. So clicking that. The other thing to point out with the reading pane is that it doesn't actually pop out a window by default like previous versions of Office did. What it does is it just puts it in the reading pane, and you can be working on something, and you can click away from it, and instead of putting it in the drafts folder, it'll just keep it here. So you'll be able to tell that something is in draft because it'll put that parentheses and draft in red. If you do want it to pop out, you can click the pop out, and then again, it will be, as before in previous versions of Word, where it opens up a new window for the email that you're sending. But I just point that out because that's a little bit different from the previous versions of Office that we used. So there's that. And that draft will remain indefinitely. If I choose later on, I can hit discard, and it goes back to just showing me the original email message. And then we have our to-do pane. This is very interactive now. It used to be that you had to go to the calendar portion of Outlook to get to this, but now you can simply double-click on a date. It'll open up your calendar for that particular date, takes you to the calendar section. The other thing that we'll do that's quite handy is it will show your next upcoming events. And we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get into the calendar, but it kind of gives you a brief glance. Your legislators are very busy, so generally this will always be full. And of course, you can move the calendar to future or past dates. Now, again, this depends on your legislator. If your legislator's new this year, it's not going to go, back past January 2021. However, if your legislator's been here 20 years, it will. So just be aware of that. But it does come in handy. Obviously, you're not scheduling meetings in the past, but it does come in handy if you are wanting to, say, pull up a meeting from a previous year or see information about it. Okay. So let's get to the meat of this. Let's actually talk about sending an email message. Very straightforward. You come up here in the home ribbon and you click New Email. It's going to put your name in the From field. You guys probably won't see the From field by default. So I'll make it look like you'll see it by default. It'll look like this. And you guys don't need to worry about From because you only have the one account, so no big deal there. But it's going to open like this when you open up a new email. And it's going to give you some options here. The first we already talked about briefly. Again, you have a quick access toolbar up here at the top for a new email. This is different than the quick access toolbar for Outlook as a whole. So again, these are specific tools relating to sending a new email message that we think might be useful. The first is save. We already talked about this briefly. If you want to save that copy of this to your drafts folder before you send it, instead of hitting send when you're done drafting the email, you would hit save, close it, and then it would go into your drafts folder. That's what that save is for. The next two are undo and redo. Again, they are grayed out because I haven't done anything. Once I start typing, you'll see that those light up and become active. I can click it once to undo the last action I've done, click redo to redo the last action that I've undone. You have the next and previous. Unfortunately, these aren't tools we can remove, so they remain there, but they're grayed out. We just go to the next email message. We don't use that tool. This one is your BCC, and I think I added this one. Slight difference between each one of these fields. Let's talk about this briefly. To, CC, and BCC. To field, very straightforward. You put everyone's email address in the to field, and it sends everybody in that list the email. CC stands for carbon copy or courtesy copy, and this is someone who would be interested in the email that you sent. So, for example, my boss says, Emily, I need you to email the chief clerk's office something. I would put the chief clerk's office as my to, and I would put my boss, Matt, as a CC, and then he would get a copy of the message that I sent to the chief clerk's office. BCC is the one that I recommend you use if you are sending outside the legislature. This is the one I recommend you use when you send out your newsletter. BCC stands for blind carbon copy or blind courtesy copy. And what this does is, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten like a forward of a forward. My dad is notorious for those, where he sends me a forwarded message and it's like 5 pages of recipients before it actually gets down to the message. That's because they put the person in the to field. So anybody that you put in the to field, everyone's going to be able to see. If I put 50 email addresses in the to field, everyone is going to be able to see all of those email addresses. And that's where people get into trouble doing the reply versus reply all. So what I advise you to do, if you're sending within the legislature, that's no big deal. We all know each other's email addresses. It's not a big deal. But BCC is advisable when you're sending outside the legislature for a couple of reasons. One, it looks more personal. If I could put 50 people in the BCC field, and when I hit send, they're only going to see that it was sent to them. So I'm not sharing everybody else's email address with everybody on the email. And so that's really why it's personal, and I can't think of the other reason now. I just lost my train of thought. Apologies. But it just looks more personal. I think that's the best way to go. And like I said, you're not sharing email addresses with everyone else on the message. So if they hit, reply all accidentally and they're in BCC, nothing happens. It just replies to the sender. So that's what I advise you do. And if you guys got the handouts from me today, I used the BCC field, so I didn't share all of your email addresses. That's especially important, I'd say, with lobbyists. One year, somebody accidentally put all the lobbyist email addresses in the to field, and they did not want their email addresses public. They were very upset. So just a good rule of thumb, especially with like big distribution lists as well. If you have, 400 people you're sending a newsletter out to, you don't want 400 names up here. So put it in the BCC field, and then it just looks more personal. They only see the one name, and they don't have access to all of the email addresses that were sent the original email message. That's your BCC. These next two are macros that we've created here at the legislature for your use, and they are very handy. The first one is hyperlink legal, and the second one is insert legal. This allows you to quickly link to or insert legislative content directly into an email. So for example, let's say a constituent emails me and they want to know all about House File 123, and they want to know about Senate File 510, and they want to know about House Amendment 1003. For those of you that are new, these acronyms will be second nature before you know it. You can type this many different ways. It's pretty intuitive, so I don't have to type. The general format that you'll want to use is capital letters, space in between, and numbers. But if you don't do the format exactly correct, it's still going to pick it up. So HF would be a House file, or you can type it out, House file, Senate file. SF would be a Senate file. An H and a dash would be an amendment. An S and a dash would be a Senate amendment. This is a House amendment. There's conference committee reports, there's joint resolutions. All of these have little acronyms that you can use. But basically, this person writes me and they want to know all about all of these bills for the current session. So instead of going out to the website and trying to find all these bills and linking them to the content, or going through and trying to answer all of the questions, what I can do is just link them to these bills in our bill book application on our website. So I've completed my email. I just typed it. I don't have to highlight anything. I come up here and I click on Hyperlink Legal. It's going to go through my email message and it's going to highlight, right? Oh no, of course it's not going to work in my training. I tested this at my desk and it worked at my desk, so I apologize. But what this should do is it should link everything in your email. They should all turn blue and be underlined, and then you'll be able to hover over it and you'll be able to click Control and follow the link. So you can test the link to make sure that it works before you send it. The sender will just click on the link like always. This works for current legislation only. We're starting a new GA this year, so current legislation is anything from this year going forward into next year is considered current. So if they want information on a bill from a previous session, you're not going to use this method. But Most times when people are writing, they're concerned about current legislation anyway, so that's why we made that distinction. So this will link them to our bill book application on our website. And let me just show you what that looks like. So if they were to click on the link that I should have created, House File 123, it's going to link them right to this page where it's going to give them the full text of the bill and all of the bill information over here on the left. Lobbyist declarations, different versions of the bill action, etc. So it's one-stop shop for all the information on a particular bill. And I apologize that didn't work. It worked on my computer. Why it's not working on this computer, I'm not quite sure. But that's what that one does. The other one goes a step further, and instead of linking you to content, it's going to insert the full text of that content into your email. So you can click on it, and you know what? I'm just going to use it in Word for whatever reason. I know it works in Word here. My apologies. I'm just going to go to Word so you can see this in action here. Because we have the same two tools up in Word. We have the same two tools in Excel. If you're using your legislative computer, it's present across all Office products. So let me show you how this actually does work. Because I know it works, because I did Word the other day. So I've typed in my bills. And now I'm going to hit my little hyperlink button. There, now it looks right. It's going to go through, and again, it's going to highlight and change to links any one of these bills that are formatted in this manner. So like I said, when you hover over it, it's going to say Control and click to follow the link. When you send this document to someone, you're just going to click the link, of course. But because you are, and we're changing around the website right now in preparation for session on Monday, so some things don't work right now, but they will work come Monday. So you can link them that way. You don't have to highlight these. It just knows to go through your entire document and look for these particular keywords. So you can type them out. You can use the abbreviations, capitalize, don't capitalize, space, no space. It doesn't matter. It's going to find it either way. Like I said, the next one goes a step better, and instead of linking to content, it actually inserts. Hold on 1 second. We got a question. Would you say, sorry, hold on 1 second, Sarah. I'm trying to get to your message here. Would you say best practice would be to always hit that button before sending emails, that is to always hyperlink any reference to a bill? I absolutely would, Sarah. I can't really think of a reason why you wouldn't want to link to a bill. I mean, if they don't want to click it, they don't have to, but why not? Yes, I would say that's best practice. Absolutely.
When, there's 5 different bills, one you want the full bill to print on the email, the other two you just want hyperlink.
I would, in that case, use the tool I'm about to show you.
Okay.
She asked if she wanted to hyperlink with some of the bills in it and put the text of one of the bills into the message, and that's what I'm about to show you. So that's what this insert legal does. And it's going to ask you what you want to insert. You have an option to do an Iowa code, chapter, or section. After each one of these in parentheses with this EG, it's going to give you the format to use. So there's how you would denote an Iowa code, chapter, or section, an Iowa administrative code, chapter, or section. But the one you guys are going to use 9 times out of 10 is this one for bills, resolutions, and amendments. And again, here is a good example of the format to use when you're using the hyperlink bills and insert legal tools. SF, for those of you that don't know, I'll just go through these real quickly. SF would be a Senate amendment. HR would be a House resolution. An SSB would be a Senate study bill. HJR, House joint resolution. An H followed by a number, an H dash followed by a number is a House amendment. An S dash followed by a number or an S followed by a number is a Senate amendment. This would be a conference committee report in the Senate. This would be a conference committee report in the House. Generally, you know the bill that you're going to be entering here. So I'm just going to use the same bill I always use, which is House File 123. Now, there is an option here to also change the version of the bill. Now, I've chosen a bill that I know has only reached introduced status, so I'm going to leave it set at introduced. It's not going to let you put in a bogus bill number. So if you put in Senate File 510 and Senate File 510 doesn't exist, it's going to pop up a message saying that's not a valid bill. It'll do the same thing with versions. So those of you unfamiliar with the process, just briefly, when a bill is first read in, it is the introduced version. After one of the chambers votes on it and introduces amendments, it goes into and becomes the reprinted version, and it goes to the opposite chamber for debate. They may introduce some amendments, they may send it back, And that becomes essentially the enrolled version, which is what the governor actually signs and what is then turned into law. So there can be up to 3 different versions of a bill, and so that's what this denotes. You can put in and choose whichever version of the bill that you want. There's also the option to just insert the bill title. Each bill has about 1 line of just the title of the bill. So if all you want to insert is the title, you can check that box to do so. I want to insert the full bill, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. And this is based on cursor placement. So when I hit OK, wherever I had my cursor in the document or the email is going to, oh, that's fun. Don't tell me you too. Okay, let's do this. It worked yesterday. No, okay. It must be cleaning out the bills. As I mentioned, we're starting a new GA this year, so bills are starting over. So I think they're moving it over to the 89th GA, so my apologies that I can't show you that, but it will insert the full text of the bill into your email or your Word document. The other good thing about doing it with the insert is that it puts it in the proper format. Bills are formatted in a really specific way with a certain font and certain spacing. Whether or not Office thinks it's correct, it puts it right into that format. So it's always going to be the proper format. And I apologize I can't show you that, but it will work on Monday, I promise you. And that's your insert legal. So in that case, yes, wherever you put your cursor, it would insert the full text of the bill. And then, yeah, like I said, I would always just hit that hyperlink legal and then link them anyway. Exactly. Exactly. Good question. Again, you have the ability to customize this ribbon just like you could in Outlook. So if you want to add or remove tools, show it below the toolbar, whatever you want. Again, it's a per machine setting, so you can customize this however you want, and it won't affect the other person, legislator or clerk, with your changes. So we talked about 2CC, BCC. The other thing to talk about is a subject. Always important that you put a subject in an email message. If you try to send an email message and you don't have a subject, it is going to bark at you and say, do you want to send this message without a subject? And the reason it prompts you is that's probably the #1 flag of spam. So you don't ever want to send something without a subject. You might just get blocked right at the source. So always put in a subject of some kind. Try to make it specific to the email as opposed to like a generic hi. But it will bark at you. You do have the option to send it without a subject, so it's not to say that you can't. But the reason that pops up is because it's trying to avoid you getting labeled as spam by the sender, or sorry, the recipient of the email message. And then you have all of these additional options here. You have your cut, your copy, your paste. This pretty much mimics your Word toolbar, allows you to change your fonts and your colors and the formatting and all of that good stuff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's pretty self-explanatory. But I did want to talk about the address book. A couple different ways to launch the address book. You can either click on the address book, or you can click on the 2CC or BCC fields to also launch the address book. By default, it's going to open up the global address list. This is a list of all of the employees within Iowa state government. So we have all of those email addresses available for you. All you need to do is type in someone's last name. If you know their first name, even better. But let's just find me. I type in the last name. If you know the first name, do a comma, space, first letter of first name. Takes you to that person in our list. To add that person, you'd simply click on the button for the field that you want to add them to. So if I'm sending this to, I would click on to. If I want to put it in the CC, I'd click on CCC. And if I want to put it in BCC, I'd click on BCC. You can select multiple people from the list at one time by holding down your Control key and selecting as many as you want before you click those buttons to add them to the field. When you say OK, you'll see that those people are added to my email message. Other thing with the address book, as you can see when I clicked on this drop-down, there are several different more specific options. The one I want to point out is the one called All Legislative Groups. We have several groups already created for you. So let's say you or your legislator or your clerk wants to quickly email all of the representatives. There is a group here called All Representatives. If I choose a group and I put them in, you can see that it's a contact group because it's going to be bolded. That denotes that there's more than one person. And then also the icon has 2 people as opposed to 1. That denotes a contact group that contains more than one person's email address. So we have all of these here for your use. We have LSA staff, we have all Senate, all House, We go down to all Democratic representatives, all Democratic senators, all Republican representatives, Republican senators. All of these groups are out here for your use. So if you need to send to a larger group of people, check here, make sure it's not already in here. We don't have committees listed in here, and the reason for that is because all of the committee training and materials go out through our committee forms application. So if you want to create a distribution list for a committee, you can do so, but we don't do that for you guys because you're generally using committee forms when you're talking to committee members. If I click OK, you'll see again that this will show me that this is a group because it's bolded, and again, there's a little plus sign in front of it that denotes that I have more than one person in this email message. So a lot of times, a legislator will say, okay, I want to send it to all representatives, but I know that like 2 or 3 people are gone, and if they're gone today, whoops, if they're gone today, it doesn't matter because it's about lunch today or whatever. What you can do is click on the little plus sign. It's going to give you a little message that says, why isn't that working? It's going to give you a message. Why? Okay, that's annoying. Sorry about that. What it's going to do is it's going to pop up and it's going to ask if you want to expand the membership. And when you do that, it'll put every single person in that group as a singular email address. And then you can simply pick out the ones that you don't want. When you use this group again, of course, those people will be back in. But for that one message, you could just pick out the ones that you want. I deeply apologize. I literally tried this in Outlook yesterday on this computer, and it worked fine. So I don't know what's going on with that. But all you would do is, again, click on that plus, and it would expand all of the emails out and show you them singularly. You'll also generally see a message up here that's not displaying either for some reason, that will say how many people are sending an out-of-office reply right away. So again, if the clerk is gone, or the legislator, I should say, if the legislator is gone, it'll say Senator X is sending an out-of-office reply, and it'll even show you what the out-of-office reply is. So you have the option, there's a little X next to their name, you can click it to just remove that person very quickly. If they're sending an out-of-office reply, chances are that they might not be available. So it will also give you that functionality. I apologize for that not working. I'm not certain why that's happening. But there's all of these other addresses, address books you can use, different executive branch agencies, things of that nature. The one I want to point out here is the one called contacts at the very bottom of the list. Not suggested contacts, not all contacts, just contacts. These are the contacts that you and your legislator maintain. So these people may be in the global address list, they may not. Generally, what legislators use this for is constituent emails. They'll save constituent emails here. They'll create distribution lists for their newsletters and save those groups here. So these are specific to you and your legislator. If you need to get to the ones that you guys have created, you would choose contacts from the very bottom of the list to access your particular contacts, whether they're in the address book or not. You guys maintain these, you manage them. So pick whoever you want to send this to. And again, if I wanted to put it in drafts, I would hit save, I would close it, it would be in my draft folder. If I wanted to quickly send it, I would hit the send button. Check names, this basically works if you know their name. You type in the name and you hit check names, and then it puts in the email address. It's not foolproof. If there's more than one person with that name, it's not the best. I don't like to use it, but that's what that tool does. Attaching. Very straightforward if you want to attach a file to an email message. The good thing about the newer version of Office is that it does pull up the last few documents that you've been working with by default. So these are all the last few documents that I've had open on this machine. I can quickly say, oh, I was just working on this document. I can click test, quickly add it there. Or if I don't see the file I'm looking for, I would click browse this PC. I would go to my H drive where I save everything. I would choose my file, whatever that may be, hit insert, and it puts that file into my email message here. You can add pretty much as many attachments as you want. The only stipulation with that is when you're doing videos or pictures, sometimes the file size is simply too large to send via email, and that's not just us, that's anywhere. If you run across something like that, come find us. We can help you like set up a Dropbox or save it to a network location where people can access it. That's just the nature of email, unfortunately. Sometimes if the file size is too large, it's not going to send with that large of a file. But generally, you can attach whatever you need to, and you can definitely attach an email and several other items. There's the attach item here. There's the option to do a business card. I don't really do that. Outlook item, I don't really do that. The one I do point out, though, is the calendar. let's say somebody emails your legislator and they say, we want to meet with your legislator sometime this week, when would be the best time? Rather than you going to check your calendar, what you can do is say, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm just going to put my calendar in this email message. Now, before you get worried that you're volunteering all of this crucial information, you're not. All it's going to show is whether someone is free or whether they are busy. It doesn't tell where they're at. It doesn't say, you know, I'm at the doctor or what have you. It's just going to show whether they're free or busy. It'll put in the calendar like this in the body of the email message, and then it will also put in an attachment where if they open it, they'll be able to view the calendar this way. But again, just going to show free or busy. That's all that does. So if you want to take advantage of that, cool. If not, of course, you can go to your calendar and check the usual way. Other thing to point out is the signature. This is a big one. Everybody kind of creates their own signature the first few weeks of, well, first few days, I should say, of session, to just have the legislator's information handy, very quickly, and so they don't have to, you know, type the same thing over and over and over. So to create a signature, I have several, as you can see. What you want to do is choose a signature. If you don't have any, you're going to click on signatures. This is going to give you the opportunity to create a signature. You'll click new. You'll type a name for it. Some people have several, like I have here. There's maybe one formal, one less formal. And then you type whatever you want. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this one. So here's a good example. A lot of legislators type their name, their district number, and then they have a link to, like, follow them on Twitter, or a link to their website, or a link to the legislative website. You can do anything here that you need to do. This is intuitive enough that it will know if you type in a URL. So, for example, if I type our website address, legis.iowa.gov, and I click the space button, it knows that that's a link. This one, I actually had to just highlight the text, click on the link here, and then tell it where I wanted it to go. So you can create those links. The best way, again, this is a per machine setting, so the best way I find to do it is one of you creates a signature, send an email to yourself, the other person copies the signature and pastes it in. So you're not both creating it. It's much easier that way. And then what you'll do is you'll come up here and you'll tell it which signature you want to use for new messages and which one you want to use for replies or forwards. So, for example, I'm going to use my 2020 signature for new messages, and maybe my formal one for replies or forwards. So that's where that formality can come in. Maybe for replies or forwards, you don't want to put the big signature. You would just put a smaller one. This is up to you, however you want to do it. But again, make sure that you and your legislator have the same signature if that's what you want. Some clerks do actually create their own signature, so it says it comes from the clerk as opposed to the legislator. Again, that's completely up to your legislator and yourself. But that's definitely one that I would recommend you take advantage of, because everybody likes that signature feature. And then anytime you create a new email message, it puts that signature right here. So I can type, and my signature is there always. If I want to change the signature, I can also do that by just choosing it here from the drop-down to insert it that way. You can mark something for follow-up for the recipient. It will flag it for them immediately. Nobody really does this. It's basically like telling somebody they have a due date for getting back to you, but you can. And it'll populate that flag, and it'll show that it's due on a certain day, or you can just denote the flag with a visual if that means something to you. And then you can send something with high importance. What this will do is when you send it, it's going to put a little exclamation point in the lower right-hand corner to denote that this is important. Now, this is only important in the eyes of the sender. This person may think it's super important. That's not to say it is important. It's just that the sender thought it was important. It's just anything they can do to make their email stand out, they will do. And this is what it will look like when they do that. You'll also see when you click on the email that it'll say it was sent with high importance. You can mark something as low importance. Why you'd ever want to do that, I have no clue, but you can. Office add-ins, you guys won't pay any attention to that. Insert. This is all same stuff we saw in the message ribbon. You can attach a file, Outlook item, business card, calendar, signature. We talked about all those right here, but just another place where you can find that info. Insert is all grayed out right now because I haven't clicked in the body of my message. Once I click in the body, you see I get all of these additional options here. And again, this is pretty much across all Office products. The insert ribbon looks pretty much the same. You can put in a table, you can do pictures, Pictures is one that a lot of people do if they want to put in like a picture of the Capitol, or they want to put something in their signature. This is where you can come and go to that graphics folder we talked about earlier, and you can go to like pictures of the Capitol, and I'm just going to pick one that I always pick and put it into my message here. So if you have a picture on file or you want to access the pictures on the iDrive, you would choose the picture option. Online Pictures has replaced clip art now, and basically it's just a web search for pictures. So you type in the word you want, you hit enter, it pulls up a million different options for that picture. And wherever you have your cursor, if you choose one of these, it's going to place that into your document. Some of them are very large. So how do we resize a picture? Pull in the corner, pull it towards the center makes it smaller, pulling it outward makes it bigger. You always want to use the corner so that you're not distorting the pictures. For example, if I did it this way, you see how it makes it short and fat. If I were to do it this way, it makes it long and thin. So use those corner arrows to maintain the height-to-width ratio. So that's your online pictures. There's shapes. There's icons. Icons is kind of new with this version of Office as well. They're just black and white. Basically, they're kind of easy to resize, why people would use an icon. They don't pixelate, however big or large you make them, they're always nice and sharp. And then lastly, there's this 3D models. Is this related to legislative work? Probably not, but it is fun to play with. There's a couple here. What's the one? Biology. And this is just like doing a picture, except 3D. So you insert it. And in addition to getting the usual picture that you see, you get this little right here. We'll let you play around. Again, how useful that is for legislative work, probably not. Maybe if you want a 3D model of the coronavirus, I suppose you could do that. Smart art, charts, screenshots, you'll probably never use any of those. Links, as I already mentioned, it is intuitive enough to know when you type a link. So if I type like google.com, I type a URL. Whoops, can't type today. And I hit the space bar, it's automatically going to know that's a link. Again, when I hover over it, it's going to tell me to hold down Control and click to follow the link. When you send this email, the person will just click it like a normal link. But because you're the author of the document, it makes you hold down that Control key. Well, I put in the wrong URL, so that's why that's not working. Apologies. But the link comes in, again, if you want to create your own link. So like a lot of legislators have in their signature, like, subscribe to my newsletter here. Good gravy, I can't type today, sorry. There we go. So they want to say, subscribe to my newsletter here and create a link to the page where they can sign up. You highlight the text that you want to link, come up here and hit link. This puts in the text that it's going to display, and then you would type in the URL here. And now you've created a link, in my case, to Yahoo for this particular word. That's where that comes in. Bookmark, you'll never use it. There's not long enough emails to denote or make that necessary. Text boxes, quick parts, word art. Yes, these are all cool. Again, how much I'll use them for legislative work? Probably not at all, if ever. Again, word art is cool. Some of the pictures are cool, but again, if you print them off, just be aware that they're black and white printers in chamber. If you do need a color printer, your caucus staff all have color printers, so you can talk to them if you need a color printout for whatever reason. And then all the rest of these are just echoing from words. So you have your drop tab, date and time, equations, symbols. If you don't see a symbol on your keyboard, it's not readily accessible. You can find any symbol you can possibly think of in there. There's a horizontal line where you can just put a horizontal line in. Again, how much you need it, I don't know. Options. I'm not going to cover a lot of these themes. I don't really mess with. Generally, you guys just stick with the defaults. If you want to change the color and the effects and all that, knock yourself out, but nobody really does. Page color. I never advise that anyone do this because when they reply, it replies in the page color. If you go to print it off, it puts the page color in the background. If you want to print it off on a different color piece of paper, we have different color pieces of paper for that. That's what I would recommend. We have blue, yellow, and pink, I think, are the ones that they stock. So don't use the page color. I just don't advise it. BCC, again, just like this up here in the quick access toolbar, this just puts in that field or removes that field. It's just a toggle. From, this is if you have multiple accounts. I sometimes send on behalf of the help desk or on behalf of myself. So that's how I can change who it comes from. You guys won't have that. You just have the one email account. And then there's fun options like using voting buttons. You'll never use that. And then let's talk real quickly about request a delivery receipt and request a read receipt. These are not as frequently used as they once were, but people still do use them from time to time. If you send a delivery receipt, what's going to happen is immediately after you send that message, it's going to be giving you a message back that's saying this message got delivered. So it's not really all that handy if you put 50 people in the to field and you hit request a delivery receipt, you're going to get 50 messages back saying that it got delivered. If it is in your sent items folder, that's really all the evidence that you need that it left our server. We can't be responsible for what happens to the message after we send it, but we can know that it left our control, essentially. So if it's in your sent items folder, it was sent. If they didn't receive it, it might be a problem on their end. We can work those problems out as needed. There's always a constituent that calls and says, I can't get this message for whatever reason. We can work those out. But I just point that out because the delivery receipt to me is completely unnecessary. It's just one extra mail you have to go through. That being said, if you want to do it, you just check this box before you send the message. Go right ahead. Read receipt, same thing. We already talked about this a little bit. Outlook determines a read email is an opened email. And as we've shown, you can read an email in the reading pane without opening it. And technically, you could probably open it without reading it too. So I don't find this particularly useful. It will, even if you send a read receipt to someone, it pops up a message now that says, this person requested a read receipt, do you want to send them one? So the person, even if you send them a read receipt, has the option to say, no, I don't want to send them one. So it doesn't work as intended, I don't think, so I don't usually use that either. That being said, if you want to use it, just check that box before you hit send. You have the option to save where any of these sent items come from. Like I said, they're automatically saved to your sent items, so I can't see a reason why you want to move that, but you could save sent items to another message if you wanted. There's an option to delay delivery here. If you have an email that is time sensitive, maybe your legislator doesn't send out their email till Thursday, but they told you to have an early week on Wednesday, but you still need to send out this email rather than signing on, you can draft the email, come in here, and say, do not deliver before Thursday at such and such a time. And then you hit send like you always would. It's going to sit in your outbox, like we talked about a little bit earlier. And then at, whenever I set it, I think it was Thursday or Friday. Whenever I set it Friday at 5 p.m., it's going to leave my outbox and just go. So it's kind of another set it and forget it thing you can do to delay delivery. Or a lot of times I'll do that if I have somebody who like immediately gets back to me and it's the end of day, I'll be like, yeah, delay that till tomorrow, and then they can answer me then. But again, up to you if you want to use that feature. It's under options for new email messages. And then direct replies too. This is an option to direct replies to someone else, and nobody really uses that. Format text, this is exactly like the home ribbon in Word with one exception. This section right here for format of HTML, plain text, and rich text. This is a question I get every year. A lot of times, a constituent or someone will send your legislator a message in plain text. I don't want to actually do that. And what will happen when they send you a message in plain text? When you hit reply, it will respond in kind. So if I hit reply on this, you can see how all of my links are now removed. Plain text does not support links. It does not support pictures. So somebody will come up and go, I don't know. I have links in here. Why are these gone? That's the reason. You come up here to format text. You hit HTML. You come down here and reinsert your signature. And now you can see those links are active. So that's what it means. If you see the links disappear, it's generally because it's in plain text, sometimes rich text, but generally plain text. And you can change that right here to HTML, and then you get all of that functionality back. Review, by default, if something is misspelled, it's going to underline it in a red squiggle. If something is grammatically incorrect, it's going to underline it in a green squiggle. When you are inserting bill text or things like that, or bill numbers, don't pay attention to the grammatical things. Office apparently doesn't think the way we format bills is correct. However, it is according to our guidelines. So don't pay too much attention to that in response or in reference to bill text. However, you can use it, of course. It's always going to, if you have a misspelled word, it It is going to pop up before you send, so it's not something, if you accidentally forget to hit your spell check before you send, it will prompt you to do so. When you hit send, it's going to launch the spell check for you. And of course, it's going to ask you what you want to do. You can ignore it if the word is spelled correctly, or it's a name or something and Word thinks it's misspelled. You can ignore every instance of it, so if there's multiple instances of this word in the email, you can ignore all of them. And lastly, you can add it to the dictionary. One thing I caution you about, feel free to add whatever you want to the dictionary, but do make sure that you spell it correctly when you add it to the dictionary. Spell it wrong and add it to the dictionary, it's never going to pop up as a misspelling word again. There is a custom dictionary here at the legislature so that if a last name of a legislator is spelled correctly, pick one, it is not going to mark it as misspelled. So if you see a legislator name underlined in a red squiggle, check the spelling. It's probably misspelled. The correct spelling is already in the dictionary for you guys. This thesaurus is here, straightforward. You type in a word, it gives you all of synonyms for the word. There's a word count here. Read aloud is a big feature that they're doing now with Office 2019. So if you're somewhere and you want to read aloud.
It's trick-free. Follow me on Twitter.
There's all sorts of settings here. You can change the voice, you can change the speed of the reading, but you'll see that throughout all the Office applications now, just this read aloud option. Check accessibility, smart lookup, you'll never use those. Translate, you'll probably never use that, and language is already set to English, you'll never use any of those. Help can be handy now. It's not, like I said, ideal, but it is way better. They are definitely improving it. If you hit help, and again, this question mark is throughout all the Office applications, it pops up some general help topics. You scroll down, there are videos, there are tutorials on everything here, and you can also type in something like, if you don't know how to attach a file. You can say attach file. It'll give you a bunch of help documents that it thinks relate to what you want to do. You click on the one that you want, and it will give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. So something to use if you want to take a whack at it yourself, or of course we always have help support staff available to help you as well. Contact support, this actually emails Office support, not us, so I wouldn't use that one. Suggest a feature, this allows you to make suggestions to Microsoft. Show training, again, there is training that comes with all of the Office software now, so there's various articles, various videos you can watch if you want to, and then diagnostics you'll never mess with. Adobe Pdf, I don't usually cover this one in Outlook just because there's really no need to convert Outlook messages into a PDF. Generally, you're converting like a Word document to a PDF and attaching that to an Outlook message. But if you wanted to convert your email to a PDF, you could do so. I really can't think of a reason why you'd need to. And then lastly, there's this tell me what to do. Again, across all the Office products, just like clicking on help, you can type in something like add BCC, and in this case, it takes you right to that option and allows you to either add or remove BCC. So that can be handy. When you are finished, you simply hit send. Again, spell check will launch if you haven't run it, and then it will send. It's pretty instantaneous. Again, you can always check your sent items if you are not sure if a message sent out, and you have a recorded copy of every single message that you send from Outlook. Are there any questions on sending an email before we move on? No? Okay. And the rest of these tools I'm just going to go through very quickly. New items next to new email. This just allows you to do everything from the mail portion, so I can open up an appointment or do a meeting or a contact, even though I'm in the mail section of Outlook. Meet now. That is one thing I wanted to cover, but I'll talk about that in calendars. Schedule a meeting. Again, you can go to calendar and do this as well, but that opens up a new calendar appointment. Opens up a new calendar appointment. You can enter in the information and send that out. I'm going to talk about that when we get to calendars, however. And then all of these tools up here mirror what I get when I right-click. So you can copy them, you can drag them, you can move them. Reply all in forward. Slight difference between these. Reply is just going to reply to the sender of the message. It's also going to strip out any attachments. The reason for that is it thinks this is the person that sent you the attachment. Why would you turn around and send it right back to them? So reply strips out the attachments, replies to the sender of the message only. reply all, but reply to everyone in the to field. So that's where people get into trouble, like replying all and then saying, I hate so-and-so, and she's on the reply all message. Not that that ever happens, but it does. So reply all is one to be careful of. Again, with BCC, you avoid that. If they hit reply all and they're in the BCC field, they're still going to reply to just the sender. So that's handy. Again, reply all will strip out the attachment as well, because everybody got the original attachment. It thinks, why would you send it around again? Forward is kind of the opposite of that. So whereas reply will open up a new email message, put that person's name in the to field, strip out any attachments. Forward will leave the attachment and leave the to field blank. Let me find one that actually has an attachment here. There we go. Forward will leave the to field blank, but maintain the attachment. So this is like, okay, this person, I should have sent this attachment to them in the first place. I'm just going to go ahead and forward them the message that I got. So you can see the attachment is maintained. I would enter in who I want to send it to, and then I would hit send to send that off to someone. Meeting more, again, these are just ways of accessing the various Outlook functionality for calendars and contacts. This allows you to do quick steps. Not a lot of people do these, but basically it generates like an auto step. So some people have the need where they want to just insert the same standard reply for everyone. They create a little template up there, and then they can click on the quick step, and it'll just insert that text for a new email message. It's kind of complicated, so I don't go into it too much in this training just because we have so much to cover. If that's something that interests you, come find me at the help desk, and I can absolutely help you walk through that and see if that's something that you want to do. Move, this is just like clicking and dragging, just a different way to do it. If you have shaky hands and you don't always get it into the right folder, you can do it this way, put it into a subfolder like that by just choosing the subfolder from the drop-down. If the subfolder isn't in there that you need, you choose other folder and then pick the folder where you want to move it. Rules. This is something to always check if your legislator has been here for some time. This is stuff that gets turned on and then forgotten about forever. So if your legislator says, hey, it's really weird, I haven't gotten any emails from committee forums, or I haven't gotten any emails from the specific person, generally it's because they have a rule set up to send it elsewhere. So you always want to check here and make sure. Now, all of these rules are here. The only ones that are working or turned on are the ones that have a checkbox next to them. So you can come in here and turn these off and on at any time. I do recommend you check that right away after session if your legislator has been here before, just to make sure that, you know, some legislators forward all their messages to a personal email account or send them elsewhere. I had a legislator one year who accidentally set it to automatically send all of their emails to deleted items. They came back the first day of session and said, I haven't gotten any mail since I left. We found them all in deleted items. Anyway, so that's something to check. There are no rules set by default, so if your legislator is new this year, there's no rules to look at. These are created for your use. These are across, again, anything you take action on is going to affect both of you. So if you turn on a rule, it's going to affect both you and your legislator. As far as the computer's concerned, you're the same person. Read or unread, this is just a toggle. I did that by right-clicking and picking it. You can do it this way as well. Categorize and follow-up, we already talked about. The address book, we already talked about when sending a new email message. This will also allow you to launch the address book here. Filter email, this allows you to filter out certain types of email. So if you want to just see all of the ones that have been flagged high importance, you can pull those out this way, just a way to filter out the messages. Again, when you're done, just click the close. It goes back to showing you your regular inbox. Search people, this allows you to type in names of people, and it will pull up all of the people in your contacts. These are for your contacts. So the legislator and yourself that maintain these contacts, these people may be in the global address list, they may not. These are your personal contacts, not the global address list contacts. You can type in a name and search there. Again, you have read aloud, add-ins you'll never mess with. Send and receive. The only thing I really pay attention to here is the send receive all folders. And we've already put that button up here in the quick access toolbar for you. Again, that's just a check mail. If you're impatient like me and somebody says they sent you an email and it's not in my inbox yet, I'll just hit that to speed up the process. The rest of these you'll never use. Show progress would be good, except it's so instantaneous that by the time you hit show progress, it's already gone. And the same for cancel all, unfortunately. It goes so fast that you don't have time to cancel it. Folders. I did, again, this by right-clicking and choosing folders this way. These right here mirror the ones up here at the top. So if you want to create a new folder, what you'll want to do is whatever folder you want this to go under, you choose the umbrella folder. So I want this to go under my inbox. If I wanted it to go under this one, I would choose this one, click new folder, type in the folder name, and then start moving emails into those folders. You have the ability to do a new search folder. Nobody really messes with that. Rename folder, if you need to rename a folder, you choose the folder, click that. It allows you to rename it. You could also just click on the folder name, and it allows you to rename it. But same thing. You can copy folders, move folders, delete folders. Run rules now, that can be handy if you have, if we just create a rule, say, to block certain content and there's a bunch of those types of messages in your inbox, you can click Run Rules Now and it'll automatically just pull those out and run that rule. Mark all as read, again, you would select the ones that you wanted, click Mark all as read, and it would put them all as read. This will allow you to, right now it's already clicked, as I mentioned, shows all the default, or all of the subfolders in A to Z format. You can change that if you wish, no one ever really does. And then clean up folders. Recover deleted items is also here. So again, we put it up in the Quick Access tool for easy use. If you remove the button, you can still access it here on the folder tab. Show in favorites. Again, you have the ability to put some folders up here if you want just certain folders up here at the top. You can put those in favorites. Archive settings. Nobody really does that. If you're interested in archiving, come find me at the help desk and I can show you there's a specific way that you have to do it. To make sure that you can access those files in the future. But again, like there's no space limit, so nobody really archives anymore. You can, you don't have to. Folder permissions, folder properties, we set all those up for you. You'll never mess with those. The view is, again, where you can change how you are looking at your Outlook. Again, this is the default. If you want to change how you're looking, you can change here. If you want to see single, just different ways to view it. I prefer to stick with the default setting, but it's up to you. There's an option here to show as conversation. So if you are emailing back and forth with someone, rather than them showing all up as individual emails, it'll put them into a group of a conversation. I don't care for that myself, but if you want to do it, you just check that box. Message preview. This allows you to see how many lines you want. Right now it has set to 1. If I put it to 2, I could see more text of each email message using that option here. This is how you can sort your messages. I do that by just clicking right here. These are the same ones as you will see up here at the top, same thing. Reverse sort, I do that by clicking right here. Again, same thing, just puts the oldest on the top or the newest on the top, depending. Add columns, if you want to add additional information about an email message, like, I don't know, what you would add even. All of these are on by default. So if you wanted to see like flag completed date, for example, you could add additional columns. Again, nobody really does that. Expand or collapse, this is already here, so it does have the ability to collapse for each date. This one happens a lot. It's very frequent that somebody clicks that and then goes, I don't have any email, where did it all go? It's just collapsed, don't panic. It's all backed up. So if you hit that little arrow, that expands back down. And the same thing goes for the inbox. A lot of times people come in and say, where's all of my subfolders? Just click that little arrow to expand it back down. The folder pane, again, is this area. You can minimize it by clicking this little button or using this option. You can turn it off entirely. Up to you how you want to handle that. The reading pane is turned on by default. If you want to remove it, you can either put it on the bottom and have the emails here and have the reading pane down here. You can turn it off entirely. Again, I leave it with the default. That's how I like it. To-do bar, by default, I believe it has people and tasks on here too. I don't really use either of those, so I go ahead and just remove those two and stick to my calendar and my upcoming appointments. But again, that's how you can change that. There's a reminder window here. If there are any pending reminders that haven't popped up yet, you can see those by clicking there. If you want to open two different versions of, or two different windows for your Outlook account for whatever reason, you want to look at one email and compare it to another, this allows you to open up a second Outlook window, and then this would close everything, of course. Help is the same as we've seen before. Adobe Pdf, we already talked about, there's really no need to PDF your emails. You'll just be PDFing the attachments for the emails. And then again, you have your help right here. Are there any questions about the email portion before we move on to calendars? I will take that as a no. So, you guys are only going to have one calendar. There's one legislative calendar that's created for you. And then for most of you, especially the new members, we've already put the social calendar on there for you, so you have two calendars. But the only one that you're going to be editing is your own calendar. The social calendar is maintained by Megan Nelson in the house, and she's the one that updates that. So you won't be adding appointments to that, you'll just be accessing them. So, very straightforward. When you get an email from committee forms, and if you're in committee forms training, we'll go over this a little bit more in depth, but what will happen is it's going to send you an email message, and it's going to have an attachment in it. Any meeting request will have an attachment in it. So if I wanted to do this, I'm just going to send it to myself so you can see what this looks like. When you send someone a meeting request, or when you get a meeting request, it's going to look like added it to me. Well, it's my calendar, that's why. Sorry. What it will look like is it'll have accept, reject, tentative, and some other options. So when you open up an iCal attachment, all you have to do is either hit accept or save, and then it adds it right to your calendar. So for committee form meetings, you're just going to open the attachment, hit save and close. It'll automatically add to your calendar. To create a new meeting or appointment, and there's a slight difference between the two, you can either double-click somewhere on your calendar at the time. You can come up here and click New Appointment or New Meeting. The only difference between an appointment and a meeting is an appointment is something for you, and a meeting is something that you would invite others to. So that's the only difference. If you choose, for example, I picked an appointment, and I want to make this a meeting, I say invite attendees, and now you can see the title changes to meeting. If I cancel the invitation, it goes back to being an appointment. So that's the only thing it does. It puts in a to field and allows you to invite people to this particular thing. A meeting is something you can invite people to, an appointment is something just for you. So all you have to do is come in here, type in the subject. Again, you're going to get notifications for committee form emails, but let's say this is, I don't know, you're taking lunch with someone and you're going to be in the cafeteria. So you put in your meeting or appointment information. You put in the start and end times. Again, you have the option here to schedule something in the future, but not the past. Use the drop downs here. If you don't see the exact time that you need, as you can see, it goes by 30-minute increments. If I want to make this, say, 1:15, I can simply type it up here, and then it will adjust the end time accordingly. So even if you don't see the actual time that you need, feel free to type it in there. You can also mark something as an all-day event. So maybe if the legislature is going to be out for a particular day, you can mark it as an all-day event. What an all-day event looks like is, so this is what an all-day event would look like. It would just appear at the top of your calendar as opposed to putting it in at a certain time. Back on this. So you put in your information, you say save and close, it goes to your calendar. If you invite other people, it sends an email to that person, allows them to accept or reject, and then if they accept it, it puts it on their calendar. There is some additional options here. Again, I'm just going to dummy one up here. You are able to double, triple, quadruple book yourself. It's not going to bark at you for that. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, a lot of times legislators are double and triple booked, and they just have to pick which one they're going to go to. So it doesn't give you any kind of prompt or anything like that. What it's going to do is it's going to put them next to each other, side by side, and then they'll have to pick which one they want to go to. But I just point that out because if you're expecting to get like a little message saying you're double booked, you're not going to get that. When you're done, you hit save and close, it adds to your calendar. You can hit delete, of course, to remove that from your calendar. Clicking the calendar button actually pulls up and allows you to see your calendar before you accept or reject that. Generally, it'll do that for you. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. There we go. Forward, you can forward this to someone else if you wish. And then this one is new this year, WebEx, add WebEx meeting. As you know, with coronavirus, we have to include virtual options now for all of our trainings, all of our meetings, et cetera. We already have a way that this is going to be implemented and integrated with CS for you. But this is how you can create a virtual component. So just like I did for today's training, I scheduled the training, and then I came up here before I was finished, and I clicked Add WebEx Meeting. And what this does is it puts in the information for joining the meetings. It allows you to set this however you want. You can limit the amount of attendees. You can include the meeting password in an email. There's all sorts of settings. I usually stick with the regular setting and just have a meeting password. And then it says, meeting details will replace this section after you save or send this invitation. So that's what it will look like initially. When you save it and you reopen it, oh, I have to invite someone, sorry. Invite myself. Invite Matt. And then it will add this information. So this should probably look familiar to some of you. It's what we sent you for the training today. And then all you have to do is copy and paste to send this to someone who wants to attend the meeting. So that's what that does. If you want to cancel the WebEx meeting, you come up here and you hit cancel, and then you can just delete all of this content, and it goes back to just being a regular email message. Like I said, with respect to committee meetings, you don't have to mess with this. We're already going to do that for you. But if you want to add a virtual component to a particular meeting, you just click this button, set your settings, and then it does it for you, and you can copy and paste that information into an email message so that person can join the training. Change settings, again, allows you to change those WebEx settings. Like I said, I stick with the default generally. It hasn't been a problem. The scheduling assistant. You won't see this if it's not a meeting because you're not inviting anyone, so you don't have to check their schedule. But the scheduling assistant can come in handy. Whoever you have in the to field, it's going to show you their calendar on the scheduling assistant. So I can quickly see, oh, you know what, Matt's actually busy until 4. I'm going to move it over here. And you can see the start and end time will adjust accordingly because I clicked that. I would just go back to my meeting. Whoops. Go back to my appointment. And then I'm back here, and I already, before I send this to Matt and he sends it back and says, that time doesn't work for me, it kind of gives you a little idea about if this time will work for the person that you're going to send it to before sending. Now, this is only as good as the person updating the calendar. If they're not a person that keeps their calendar up to date, this might not be too useful. But for the most part, people keep their calendars up to date, so this is a good first step in saying this person might be available for this time. Tracking, once people start responding, you can click on tracking and see if they're going to accept or reject the meeting that you have sent them. Contact attendees, this will allow you to quickly email all of the attendees, so anyone in the to field, or reply to all with a particular email. Address book again is here, launches your address book. You can do the same thing by clicking on the to button to get all those addresses you need to add. Check names we talked about, response options you'll never use. You do have the option, by default, everything that you create marks you as busy. If you want to be marked as tentative or out of office, you can change that for these. And then depending on what you choose, I'm not going to choose busy, I'm going to choose tentative. You'll see that on your calendar. So hold on one second, I can show you what it looks like. Yes, I know. So now you can see that it's got a little stripey line that means tentative as opposed to these solid lines that mean busy. Reopen this, show you some additional features here. So that's your, how you can set if you're busy, free, working, elsewhere, etc. By default, there is going to be a 15-minute reminder before an appointment that will pop up. This is where you can change that. You can remind yourself up to 2 weeks in advance. You can remind yourself at 5 minutes before, 0 minutes before. You can set it, have no reminder. This is up to you. You can also have the pop-up that get rid of the sound. A lot of people like to see the pop-up, but they hate it beeping at them. So this is where you can turn off that sound there. And if you want to do that for all appointments, come find me and I can do that. This is just going to apply to this one meeting that I'm doing. There's an option to set a recurrence here. If your legislator has a regular appointment during the week or something that's going to recur, rather than creating them all individually, you can come in here and any kind of pattern you can think of you can do. Maybe they have something every weekday, or they have something every Monday and Saturday, what have you. You just change your settings here for the start and end time, the duration, how often you want it to recur, the range of occurrence. The only thing I would advise you to do is set some kind of end date. By default, it says no end date. Oh, I don't know about you, but 10 years from now, I hope I'm not doing the exact same thing I'm doing right now. So, most people, myself included, will set it to end after either a certain amount of occurrences, maybe after 10 weeks, this is going to be over, or they'll have it end by a specific date. A lot of legislators will just set this as the last scheduled day of session, which this year is April 30th. And after that point, this meeting is no longer going to keep recurring, and it's not going to pop up at them all interim. And you hit OK. You can tell that a meeting is recurring because you will see, when this ends here, a little circular icon down here. It's like a two-way arrow, and that denotes the meeting is recurring. When you click on a recurring appointment, it's going to ask you a question. If you want to open this, do you want to open just this particular meeting, or do you want to open the entire series? If you want to make changes to the entire series or the recurrence pattern as a whole, you would choose the entire series, and then you would come up here, click on recurrence, remove recurrence. Time zones, you'll never use that. Room finder, you won't mess with that. You can do all the same things to a calendar appointment or meeting that you can do to an email. So maybe this is a particular meeting that I'm having about training. I can categorize it as well, just like I could with email messages. So if that color coding means something to you, that's always good. I like to do it because then when I print off my calendar, I look at it on my phone, it's color coded for me. I find that's pretty handy. Again, that's an option. You don't have to use it if you don't wish, but you can use all the same categories that you use for your email, and then you can categorize your calendar appointments the same way. Locking, you'll never mess with that. Everything's already private for you. There's no need to mess with that. Again, you can mark something as high or low importance. There's office add-ins. You won't mess with that. And then the rest of these are all the same. Same things you could do with an email, you can do with a calendar appointment. So you can attach files to a calendar appointment, you can put in pictures, you can format the text, do whatever you wish here. All the same functionality exists across all the different parts of Outlook here. You can format your text differently, you got your help, everything is here for you. As I mentioned, you can double book yourself, be aware of that. The other thing up here, and I'm not sure if this is set for you by default, but now there's an option to have weather here. I think it's Washington, D.C. by default. Go ahead and choose Des Moines. You get a nice little weather thing right here. There is a search as well for your calendar, just like there was for your email. So as you know, I train a lot. If I type in the word train, I will pull up every appointment or meeting on my calendar that has that word to do with it somewhere, whether it's in the name of the appointment, the sender, the body of the appointment, what have you. One thing to caution you about with this is if you have a legislator that has been here for some time, pay attention to the dates. If they've been here 20 years, you will have 20 years worth of appointments that meet that search criteria. So just be aware of that. When you're done, you hit close, it goes back to just showing you your calendar. Again, you can navigate forward using the arrows. You can navigate back in time. If your legislator has been here previously, you can go back and view previous years. It does show you two calendars here. This is where you can select what calendars you want to view. Most times, legislators will turn on their calendar and then also have the social calendar next to it. But again, that's up to you. You can overlap two calendars. So I can go ahead and, if I do the overlap, it's going to put those calendars together. They're still separate calendars, but I can kind of overlay them on top of each other. And then a couple more tricks. As you can see, everything is by 30-minute increments. If I right-click here, I can change that. Some of my clerks like to see it every 15 minutes. So by right-clicking, you can change it so now I have 4 spaces for each hour instead of just 2. You can change that to 10 minutes, however you want. This is where you can do that. And that's just the pattern here for that. The other thing, couple of other quick tricks. Let's say somebody emails you and they say, and this may not happen this year with coronavirus, but let's say they used to say, I'd like to come meet with your legislator one of the next 2 Tuesdays, which would work best for you. Rather than coming in here and clicking on each Tuesday individually and seeing that, what I would do is come up here, click on the first Tuesday that they've asked for, hold down my control key, click on the next few dates that they've asked for, and now I can see those 3 dates side by side. So if you are selecting non-sequential dates, use your control key. Let's say they say, I can do it on the 4th, or the 6th, or the 7th, or the 8th. Hold down your control key, select all those dates. It puts them right next to each other here. If you want to select a consecutive date, you can click on the first date, hold down your Shift key, click on the last date, and it will highlight and pull up every date between those 2 dates that you've chosen. So a quick, easy way to compare dates and see if your legislator is available quickly. The last thing, and this doesn't happen as much anymore, but I point it out just in case you are one of the lucky ones. Some of the legislators still do like to print off a calendar copy. So up in the Quick Access toolbar, again, we have our print preview here. You can click on Print Preview, and again, it's going to give you a nice little visual indicator and preview of what's going to look like when you print off. Default printer is selected by default. You can change that if you wish, but there are several different styles here. So depending on your legislator, maybe they already have a preference. The daily style, there's a weekly style. There used to be those 3-ring binders that people would use, so this is the format for that. There's also the calendar detail style that lists not only the appointments, but also puts in the body of the appointment as well. So again, up to you, but there is a print preview button up here at the top. Kind of does away, if you're doing the chamber printers, it does away with your nice color coding. It'll be black and white and just shades of gray, but if their legislator wants it, that's what they get, and you can always print that off whenever you need to. Are there any questions on calendars before we move on? Take that as a no. Last thing we're going to talk about is contacts. As I mentioned, these are the contacts that you and your legislator maintain. These people may be in the global address list, they may not. Most often, these are constituents that your legislator has contacted. Maybe they're newspapers from your legislator's district, people that have contacted you on various issues. You can do with these whatever you like. They are all backed up. Everything is backed up on our server. So anything in Outlook you don't have to worry about saving. It's saved for you. But to create a new contact, just like to create a new email or a new calendar appointment, you come up here and click the leftmost button in the upper left, and then you enter in the contact info. The only thing that you absolutely have to have for an email contact is an email address. You don't even need a name. You do need an email address. If you create a contact and there's no email address, you can't email them. So that's the one thing that you do need. I'm going to go ahead and just pick one here. You can put in as much or as little information after that as you want. You can put in their full name. There's a whole bunch of fields: company, job title, file as. By default, all of your contacts are going to sort alphabetically by last name. That's generally what people want. There's an option here to change that if you wish. You can put in a picture. It automatically creates this business card for each one of your contacts. So that's what this shows here. You have the option to put in web pages, phone numbers. You can put in notes. Maybe this person contacted me on such and such, and that's the note that you want to associate with them. So there's the General tab, there's a Details tab, so if you want to get really specific and get their manager's name and their department and their wedding anniversary and all that good stuff, you can do that. Again, the only information that you really need is an email address, and it will automatically put in, if it's in the global address list, it'll automatically put in that information for you. When you're done, you say Save and Close. That person will automatically be added to your contacts. No, I don't want that. Go away. Thank you. There we go. And then you can just double click on it to pull it up, make any changes that you wish. Again, you get all the same functionality that you got with emails and you got with calendar appointments here. So you can categorize contacts. Maybe this person contacted me on House File 345. I want to note that. Maybe they emailed on 12/20/20, whatever you want to put in here. These will be saved and they will not go anywhere unless you elect to move them. You can also create subfolders underneath your contacts. So just like with email, if I right-click here, I can create a new folder. As you can see, I've already done that. I created a separate contact list for newsletter. If you want to click and drag, you can drag these over to a subfolder of your contacts. Again, most of the contact groups we've done for you. If you want to create your own contact group, you click the button right next to contact, new contact that says new contact group. You would name your group, whatever you want. Let's say these are my poker buddies. And then you would add members. 3 different ways to add members. 1, from your Outlook contacts. These are the Outlook contacts that I already have here, the ones that I maintain personally. From the address book. That's the global address book that we provide for your use. And then lastly, if this is a person that exists in neither place, you'd call them a new email contact. So I'm just going to create a dummy one here real quick, so you can see what this looks like. You choose who you want, you click the members button, you say okay, it puts all these people in the contact group for you. So now I can email the one group, and I will email all of these separate people. If I want to add a new email contact, I can click right here. Again, I can enter in the new email address. The email address is the only thing required. Say add to contacts. That's the one thing I wanted to point out. When you're adding someone new, it is going to automatically say add to contacts. What that means is it's going to add this person not only to this contact group, but it's also going to add them as a singular contact to your contacts. And you want to do that. Otherwise, you'd only ever be able to access this person from the contact group and pull them out. So leave that box checked, say okay, and I already have her in there, that's why it's not working. And it will add that person as a singular contact as well. So several different options there. To remove members, this is where it gets kind of tricky sometimes. They've gotten better about it, but it still happens. So I want to remove a member. I would choose the member, I would come up here, and I would hit the remove member button. This used to just say delete, and that caused a lot of confusion. Now they've made it say delete group. This item has changed. Still want to delete it? Most people would think, yeah, I still want to remove that person. It's going to prompt you one more time. Do you want to delete this contact group? If I click yes, the whole contact group is deleted. Now, if that happened, I wouldn't panic, because I can still recover it in my deleted items folder. Now again, I'm in test, so that's not going to work the way I want it to. But you can recover not only email messages and deleted items, you can also recover any deleted calendar appointments, any deleted contacts, any deleted contact groups. So anytime you can't find something and you've removed it, go to your deleted items folder and check it out. Let me see who else here I can show. And yeah, as I said, the rest is pretty much the same. It will prompt you if you have somebody in your contacts that already has that name. So for example, if I type in Marissa Ham, who's already in my contacts, and I give her a new email, and I say save and close, it is going to tell you that you already have a contact in your contact group with that name, or in your contact list with that name. And some of these legislators have maintained this list for 20 years, so absolutely, it could be either way. The first option says add new contact. Yes, it's a coincidence. There's 2 Marissa Hams, but they are 2 different people. I would add the contact. Or there's the option to update information of the old contact. Now, I always recommend you do this if it's the same person, because it kind of just bumps things down in priority. So what do I mean by that? If I hit update information with selected contact, the backup copy, now I come in here, and the email that I had initially for her, in this case I didn't have an email for her previously, if I had an email for her previously, I didn't have an email before, so hold on one second, let me just show you what that looks like. So if you already had an email for that person, and then you type in the same name, and you give them a different email, and you hit save and close, and I update the contact, what it will do is it essentially puts the new email as the primary email, but it still maintains a copy of the original email address. So you're not removing anything. You're just basically bumping it down in priority. So I have 2 email addresses for her now. The Yahoo one is the most current. The Gmail one was the older one I had for her. So either way, if you're adding a new person that happen to have the same name, add it as a separate contact. Otherwise, update the contact that you already have. A lot of times people do want to forward contacts, very easy to do. Select the contact that you want, click forward contact, and I usually do as an Outlook contact. It quickly just puts in a contact card for someone. I can hit 2, enter in the 2 and hit send, and it'll automatically give that person this contact card for that person. And then you can do anything with a contact that you can do with a calendar appointment or an email. You can add pictures, you can categorize, you can mark it for follow-up, anything you want. This is the default view for contacts. If you want to change that, there's different options up here. You can view them by category. This is the people view. You can view them by card. Phone number I don't typically use because most of my contacts don't have phone numbers. But business card is the default. If you want to change how you're viewing that, any view setting is specific to your machine. If you want to look at them one way, your legislator can look at them another way on their machine. And then, like I said, I have all of these subgroups underneath my contacts. So if you want to create subfolders underneath your contacts, just like you do with your email, just like you do on your network drives, you can do that as well. And that's all I have to say about contacts. Are there any questions about those? Giving you guys time to type. I'll take a drink. Okay. I will take your silence as a we're good. So that's all I had to show you guys today. We talked about, again, file management. We talked about how to access your data from outside the Capitol, and then we talked about Outlook. I don't expect you to leave here and remember everything I said. I just talked to you for 3 hours. I'm perfectly aware of that. However, I just want you to know all this information is out there. If you have questions or concerns, come find me on the 2nd floor in the copy room. We're there from the time you gavel in to the time you gavel out. I've given you guys all the handouts. I'm going to send you the Fortinet one as well when I get back to my desk. That's the other option that you have to sign in from home, but that only works if you're using a legislative computer. So Fortinet only works if you're using your legislative laptop. Just be aware of that. And if you guys don't have any additional questions, I think we are all done. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you soon. Was that helpful?